2012, there was this idea of sats coloring, which would basically assign a color to different Satoshis to identify them in different ways, which is essentially what ordinals are. Ordinals are just a way to identify Satoshis, and inscriptions are a way that you write the data on that. A neat concept, but still an old idea. And just to wrap up, inscriptions are neat, but they're not new. A way to bring NFTs essentially to Bitcoin has been done before. Rare Peppies are probably the most famous NFT in existence, arguably. So yeah, this idea of bringing NFTs to Bitcoin has been around before, has happened, and now ordinals and inscriptions are just kind of the next flavor of that. These protocols can work together. There's no reason that Arweave transaction IDs can't be inscribed on Satoshis, right? We've seen independent game studio Gradacity create a version of their video game Reveries of Imitar and inscribe them onto ordinals. The game itself is stored on Arweave, so it's permanently available. And if you hold the Satoshi, then you can unlock the game and then play it that way. Arweave is the ideal place to store data at scale on-chain. To me, and maybe a little bit biased, but to me, that's just kind of common sense. You wouldn't use a screwdriver to hammer a nail, so why not take advantage of Arweave's ability to scale data, store it in a decentralized fashion, and have it available to everybody? And that's all possible because of the permaweb. With ordinals, you need a marketplace to view whatever it is that you want. You need a marketplace to view what's inscribed on the ordinals. You need an explorer to kind of see how, where that data is. Sometimes nodes don't carry that data, so how do you make sure that it's there? The permaweb is kind of what separates these two in a big way. So with the permaweb, you have access to the data that's stored on Arweave. Yeah, get in touch. This has been my quick and sweet presentation. I hope you got something out of it. Check out Ardrive app and RIO network on X. You can use the promo code Gamer Archives for 20% on any top-ups on Ardrive Turbo. Just because we talked about Gradacity a little bit earlier, I figured why not drop in a little promo code here for Ardrive Turbo if you want to upload using Ardrive. Visit RIO/testnet to join our Gateway Network testnet if you're more into the technical side and serving, and you want to help us create this decentralized internet that has been long promised, and we're working towards that with RIO. And you can reach out to me directly, Anthony@pds.inc. I'm happy to kind of walk you through a little bit more about what I talked about today, and maybe you just want to chat in general. I look forward to getting in touch with everybody. So thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. If any guests or our audience have any question, you can ask Anthony, and you can just DM him to discuss some cooperation. Okay, so I think thank you, Anthony. Thank you for your great speech. And
Thank you, Coral.
After Anthony's speech, I think review next is another OG from Arweave Eco, Tomoya Nakasawa, from WaveDB. So Tomoya, are you ready to?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me share my screen. 1 second.
Okay.
Yep. Do you guys see my screen? And am I muted?
Yeah. No. You
okay,
are clearly. Yeah.
Okay, let's get started. 1 second. All right, so yes, so my name is Tomo, and I'm the founder of WaveDB. And we are building a decentralized database on top of Arweave as a smart contract. But today, I want to talk about connecting PermaWave with Northstar. PermaWave is the decentralized web on top of Arweave with all the protocols using the PermaWave storage. And Northstar is a decentralized, distributed social protocol emerged from the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I want to combine these two together to talk about onboarding the next billion users to Web3. So how do we truly scale Web3? That's the question I want to answer today. Blockchain cannot scale Web3 for three primary reasons. The first one is blockchain is not a practical database. It's just a primitive ledger, good for token transfers and simple DeFi applications. Practical database would require ACID guarantees with hyper-low latency. ACID stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. And with blockchain, we have to rely on the decentralized consensus finality to guarantee ACID. And even the fastest blockchain takes something like 500 milliseconds to a couple of seconds for its finality. But the database requires less than 1 millisecond finality. So most web applications need a full-featured database, but the blockchain cannot serve as a practical database with hyper-low latency and ACID guarantees. The second reason is, like when we look at the web, it's all about data and the data economy. But the blockchain only handles the financial part of the web with tokens and NFT. But the data part of the web is probably like zillion times bigger than the financial layer. So blockchain can never ever scale to the level of the web scalability. The last reason is, like blockchains are just too expensive. We have to pay for computation and storage. And for example, if you want to store 1 gigabyte of data on Ethereum, it would cost you hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't actually even know how much, to be honest. And for all those reasons, you can never use blockchain as a practical database, and the database is only possible with centralized servers. So this is a huge problem for decentralized applications because most dApps today are using some sort of centralized database, and it's basically a single point of failure. So if you lose the centralized database, your dApp will stop. And service provider managing the database can arbitrarily change the pricing, and the third-party developers need permission to use APIs, and those APIs can be shut down at any time. Well, this is exactly what happened to me with Twitter. And there are many decentralized database solutions out there, but I would say all of them are either impractical or too domain specific. Some of them are based on IPFS, which don't guarantee data permanency. Others are using NFT for data ownership, and ZKP for data privacy. But those solutions are too domain specific, which can never replace general purpose Web2 databases. So we are building the first general purpose fully decentralized database as a smart contract, which has got the performance of Web2, indefinite scalability with very high cost effectiveness. So how do we do that? We are building our database solution as a layer 3 rollup to Arweave permanent storage. So Arweave has this unique concept called storage-based consensus paradigm for smart contract. And basically, SCP utilizes Arweave permanent storage and offloads computation to the client side. So smart contract states are deterministically evaluated on the client side from the immutable data stored on Arweave. So users only pay for the cheap permanent storage and not for the free off-chain computation, which makes smart contracts extremely cheap and scalable compared to other blockchain smart contracts. But this lazy evaluation model has a problem with database because database needs a real-time evaluation to guarantee ACID, but the SmartWeave sequencer doesn't evaluate anything, and it's not possible to guarantee ACID with all the decentralized clients trying to upload the smart contract state at the same time. So we developed a layer 3 rollup solution to solve this problem. So each database instance is an app-specific rollup, and we use the Warp SmartWeave sequencer as a settlement layer for rollups. In this way, we can use centralized servers for database performance, but still maintain decentralization with upper layer verifiability. It's just like Ethereum layer 2 rollups. And rollups will immediately be composable on layer 2 settlement layer, thanks to the lazy evaluation verifiability of the Arweave permanent storage. This is a new type of rollup architecture using Arweave instead of Ethereum. And I believe this is the only way to achieve performant and scalable database with full verifiability and decentralization. And let me talk about some features of WeaveDB. So Web3 database requires a pretty different set of features from Web2 database due to its permissionless nature. So you can't just bring in some existing Web2 database like PostgreSQL and decentralize the node network. It's not going to work well. So Web3 database should be built from scratch with cryptography and data ownership on the foundation. And data ownership should be programmable with smart contracts. To address this issue, we developed our own domain-specific language called FPJSON. And FPJSON is a functional programming utility with more than 250 composable functions. And you can build any level of advanced logic by composing functions in a form of a very simple JSON array. This enables so many features Web3 database must have, such as crypto wallet authentication, data schemas, access control rules, auto-executed cron jobs, triggers to chain queries, off-chain plugins, and relayers to connect with external data. And everything's expressed as JSON data objects, and stored as smart contract states. WeaveDB is a highly advanced decentralized NoSQL database with simple yet very powerful queries and free on-chain indexers. Since WeaveDB is a general purpose database, there are so many use cases. The primary use case would be social web applications, but it can be used for so many different use cases, such as DID, social protocols, decentralized oracles like Chainlink, and fully on-chain games, decentralized science, and blockchain indexers like the Graph protocol. We are going to onboard 1 million developers from Web2 because WeaveDB makes web development 10 times simpler. So basically, all you have to do is to deploy the database contract, which takes only 2 seconds, and set up some data schemas and access control rules with a simple JSON format, which is very friendly to Web2 developers. We even have no-code web console where you can deploy and set up your database, and you don't have to manage the database because it's a smart contract and it will run forever on blockchain. To prove anything can be built with WeaveDB, we are launching a free decentralized Twitter called JOTS. And JOTS is something like Twitter meets Medium. So you can post notes, articles, images, and interact with each other on timelines. But JOTS is quite different from Twitter because Twitter has one gigantic network managed by a centralized company, but JOTS is just a smart contract. And anyone can fork and deploy their own JOTS within 2 seconds. So there will be hundreds of thousands of JOTS forming a fractal network, which will be unstoppable. So how do we onboard the next billion users? Since we proved that one of the most complex social applications like Twitter can be easily built with WeaveDB, anything could be built with WeaveDB now. So we are going to vampire attack all the popular Web2 applications with the millions of developers we are onboarding. And we will build an unstoppable decentralized network of dApps on the PromoWave. But when we build all those applications, should we invent our own social protocol? We didn't think so. There are so many standardized social protocols out there, so we didn't want to reinvent the wheel. So we did some research, and what we found out was Northstar. So Northstar stands for node and other stuff transmitted by relays, and it's basically a distributed social protocol using Bitcoin key pairs to verify data ownership. And no one owns or manages Northstar, and it's a very simple, transparent protocol anyone can use, just like email or internet protocols. So we thought Northstar and Arweave are the perfect match to build all kinds of decentralized social applications on the PromoWave. So it's basically a super simple protocol. There are only three components you need to know: events, relays, and clients. An event is just like a blockchain transaction, which expresses user actions. So it has only 7 parameters: kind, content, tags, created at, pub key, ID, and signature. And the kind specifies what kind of content the event contains, and the event owner is verifiable with the public key and the signature. Tags are used to extend the basic properties. For example, kind 0 is for your profiles, and the kind 1 is for user nodes, and so on. So relays are the distributed servers to receive and store events, and clients are basically front-end applications to fetch data from relay servers, and users interact with data through one of the clients. And anyone can set up a relay server, and anyone can build their own client. So there are many different clients using the same data source, but looking differently. Some of them look like Twitter, and others look like Instagram. Nostr does not have permanent data guarantees. So if all relay servers are gone, so your data. It's just like IPFS. The network is distributed, but no one really guarantees your data permanency. So what we wanted to do with Nostr is we wanted to connect Nostr with Arweave permanent storage while providing the power and the flexibility of decentralized smart contract database. So now we have a native integration into the core contract, and the WeaveDB rollup node also works as a Nostr relay server. This is how it works. So Nostr events are just like blockchain transactions. I would say it's pretty raw, unstructured data. So WeaveDB node can receive Nostr events, and they will be stored in an off-chain database. But at the same time, WeaveDB smart contract transforms Nostr events into well-structured collections, like users, nodes, and follows, then stores them on the Arweave permanent storage. This will make it much easier and flexible for Nostr clients to build complex apps on top of Nostr. And at the same time, WeaveDB node will serve data with better performance with gRPC. So you can, of course, query raw Nostr events using WebSockets, but transforming raw data into optimized structures and storing them on-chain will open up so many possibilities for Nostr. Arweave also provides media uploads, such as images, videos, and audio data. And Iris, it was called Bundler, by the way, makes it so easy. And WeaveDB can store those media files in a verifiable way to the database. So what WeaveDB and Arweave enable for Nostr, we are bringing data permanency, on-chain indexers, structured data and sophisticated queries, and smart contract programmability, composability, media uploads, better performance and scalability. And Arweave already has many amazing protocols for decentralized data, such as Universal Data License, Atomic Assets, and Stamp Protocol. So you could combine the prominence of these protocols with Nostr using smart contract. We are also launching Rollup as a service, which means you will be able to deploy Nostr Relay with just one click. So we are launching JOTS for Nostr soon, and I believe together with Nostr and WeaveDB, we can build all kinds of social applications with scalability and performance on the Permawave and start real adoption of Web3. So that's the end of my presentation, and let's scale Web3 for real. Yeah, thank you very much. And back to you.
Thank you, Tomo. Thank you for your speech. And if any guest has any question, want to ask Tomo, yes, I think you could discuss it at that event. But if you don't, you can DM Tomo later. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, bye. I think after Tomo's speech, we will turn to Jerry. Jerry from Aggravation will give us his speech. Hi, Jerry.
Okay, can you hear me?
Ready?
Hello?
You are so good today. Okay.
Thank you. I will share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So okay, I will start my sharing. Hello everyone. I'm Jerry, the CMO of Our Vision. Thanks for having me here. Before we jump into the techy stuff, let's start with a question. What is Web3? Yeah. What is the Web3? This question has been circulating for several years. Many have equated Web3 with blockchain technology, crypto, and similar terms. After my sorry, no, we say, we say, sorry, wait a moment. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Of my 6-year journey in the crypto industry, I hope I have a slightly different perspective. Stemming from Web 2, Web 3 can be seen as an upgrade of the Web 2 framework. Therefore, it should naturally encompass features of Web 2 and then be enhanced with technologies like blockchain, AI, 6G, or some VR, AR, etc., etc. So that's how Web3 should ideally look like. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So Web3 is not in opposition or isolation from Web2. They're on the journey together. Imagine if we made Web3 as user-friendly as our favorite apps today. Hence, the ongoing dialogue about the mass adoption shouldn't revolve around migrating Web2 users to Web3. It's about Web2 users can effortlessly adopt it based on their needs. So with that vision, our team having spent some wonderful years at Asia's well-known EOA wallets, I'm Token, had a eureka moment. We thought, why not create something that truly embodies spirit of Web3, but without all the complexities. And that was born Pay. So why Everpay? Why Everpay? As I mentioned, our founding team has its roots in a wallet company. I'm Token. It is a remarkable company. Has having 15 million users and used to be the first mobile light wallet for Ethereum. Why at I'm Token, our exposure to countless crypto users made us nearly aware of the high barriers to entry in the crypto space. Blockchain has indeed granted ownership to users with no third party having undue control. This revolution is something we take the pride in. Yet every coin has two sides, right? So alongside this innovation come new challenges for the average user. Terms of concepts like private keys, the gas fees, the front running or seed freezes, MBV, EVM, etc., etc. When users made those concepts, I can imagine their face just looks like the Jackie Chan's face, in the center of this picture. It was clear that the while blockchain was revolutionary, it wasn't user friendly. It's like having a supercar, but not knowing how to drive it, right? So this is where our mission become clear. Web3 and crypto need to be simple, intuitive, and accessible. Yeah. So next is what's the magic behind the Everpay, and why we choose Arweave. Everpay is not just the payment protocol, but uh, can be linked to the layer 2 network focused on payments. With its ability to execute the millisecond level transfers at zero gas and without the TPS constraints. Everpay's transaction experience is on par with centralized payment networks like PayPal, Alipay, Mastercard, Visa, etc. Presently, it supports assets from 6 blockchains, including Ethereum, BNB Chain, Arweave, etc. Similar to Arbitrum and other layer 2 solutions, its mechanism involves bundling transactions data via a sequencer. Yeah, but in our system, we call it the coordinator, and storing it on Arweave for consensus. Our choice of Arweave over Ethereum came after extensive technical evaluation. Our primary goal was a system without TPS limits, offering millisecond transfer and zero gas. So at the beginning, we want to we try to build on top of Ethereum, but Ethereum could not meet these requirements. It can never escape the curse of a limited TPS. The reason is that the Ethereum's blocks have fixed time to be produced, and there is also a size limitation for the blocks. Even if it successfully scales up in the future, it cannot overcome these restrictions. Yeah, just imagine if suddenly have a 1 million transactions are sent simultaneously in 1 second. Due to Ethereum layer 1's limitation, the network would still become congested, and the gas fee would skyrocket. Right, so there wouldn't be the fundamental change in system performance. The congestion caused by the Arbitrum airdrop a few months ago, right? Shows this points well. Given these issues, we just give up on Ethereum directly. And later we tried Filecoin and found that although this public chain is very active, it's basically unusable for development, and the data availability is actually inadequate. More importantly, the data stored on Filecoin is not permanently stored. It requires additional fees to continue using the storage space. This is a difference from AWS. Actually, there is no difference from AWS, and cannot provide the trusted consensus for ledger data. So we give up on that as well. After quite of a journey of exploration, we discovered the Arweave. It was the perfect infrastructure for our vision. Arweave offers a permanent storage blockchain where data once uploaded can neither be deleted nor tampered with. This gives it the immutable and the traceable features shared by blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, etc. Right? So any data stored on Arweave achieves a trustless consensus. Even if you were maintaining an Excel ledger, on Arweave, it could function as a public, transparent, and immutable peer-to-peer cash system. Yeah. So here's make it stand out. Several three key points. The first key point is no block size limitation. Arweave does not have a block size restrictions. This releases TPS constraints. So even if 1 million transactions happen simultaneously within 1 second, we can stone them all at once on Arweave without causing any system congestion. And this is the first one. And this is also the important one, why we choose Arweave. And the second one is the off-chain computation. Arweave does not poses the computing power on chain. Instead, the computation are performed off-chain. This offers a speed comparable to Web2 applications and also removes the concept of gas fees. The only cost incurred in the fee for storing data on the chain. And for now, storing data for 1 million transactions around 1 gigabyte data cost $4. And around 0 points, a bunch of the $0.04 per transactions. So it's close to almost nil, right? So we've decided to bear this cost for our users. So this is a second point, and the third point is user accessibility. To further simplify user access, we've built the abstract account (FID) on top of Everpay. And we use the well-established WebAuthn passkey method. The generated key, generated key pairs are stored locally on devices, and every transaction is assigned using the device's biometric system. Yeah, with the introduction of the FID, a day-to-day normal user can easily have a non-custody crypto account, so with just an email registration. So it can lower the barriers for normal users a lot, and so help them onboard Web3 very easily. Yeah, so that's some magic behind the Everpay. Yeah, and more people are now discussing mass adoption of Web3. In my view, to truly usher in the Web3 era, we need to break free from the system performance constraints. It's not enough for the industry to only focus on low frequency, high fee scenarios like DeFi or NFT, GameFi, SocialFi, etc. But I think the GameFi and SocialFi is another kind of DeFi, because they just emphasize the fi behind the game and the social. So that's not a real game and social. So the DeFi and the NFT, they are still in a low frequency and high fee scenarios. But our ecosystem or our industry must hug the high frequency, low fee interactions that can handle large volumes of concurrent users. Is mostly important to attract more Web2 users. So high frequency and low fee scenarios is most important, and we can do that in the future, and we need to find more scenarios like this. Yeah, so we're proud to say that Everpay is paving the way for the entire industry in this direction. Yes. Okay, that's all what I want to sharing with you today. So thank you for joining us in this in envisioning this future, and let's make it happen together. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you for your time. And I think next is Azik from Yakion. Yakion is a famous project in Nostar Eco. So Azik, are you there?
Hello everyone. My name is
Hi.
Isaac. Yeah, hello. So my name is Isaac. I'm from Yakihon. So I handle the marketing and the business operation of Yakihon. So today I would like to share with you our business and about
Yeah.
Yakihon, what we do, and how it's affecting the science side of on the Noser protocol. So let me just share my screen and we go to the
Okay.
presentation. So all of you like seeing my screen now? Can you
Yes,
confirm
we can.
that?
Yeah,
Okay,
we can see
okay,
it.
okay. So welcome to the yakihon.com presentation. So it's based on decentralized media protocol, and it's anti-censorship and autonomous and automated. So what's Yakihon? So and what's the purpose of building Yakihon? So Yakihon is decentralized media protocol which supports more free and automation of creation and publishing and reporting. So by various media. So one of the important features that we implemented into our websites on the platform, which is we have the top one and most futuristic writing and editor. So we have rich markdowns based on editor or with ChatGPT 4 support for curation automation, and also we have another interesting feature, which is the publishing. So based on the open relay network from the NOSA protocol and anti censorship. So publishing and data safety are guaranteed. So no need to be scared. Like if you want to share any scientific or censorship contents, and also we support the curating. So you can create your favorites and publish articles in one unique for other users to be rewarded. And you also we have the subscription. So based on relays and pubkeys, extend your content influence all over across the protocol and network. And not to mention the ZEPs function. So it's based on the Lightning Network's payments that has the lowest fee, lowest cost and high efficiency, what makes it friendly for global users. So our platform our platform states so um, like we currently cover plus than 100 covered countries and plus 15 languages, and we have like more than 1,000 100,000 page views and plus than 11,000 piece of contents like articles, videos, podcasts, everything related to scientific and non-scientific articles. So our showcase is like what you can what we have been accomplished lately in Yakihon. So we did a global promotion. So we can promote, or you can promote your work like to plus than 100 countries around the world, and multiple forms of media streaming and interact with the Yakihon global users community to create and expose and attract enthusiasts. So, what do you expect? What should you should expect from Yakihon? Yakihon, so we have the multi-language contents and continuous exploration and cutting-edge fields. And also we have the original contents, translations, and research grant funds. And we have the enthusiasts and content creators, and also research experts and developers. So by publishing on Yakihon, so you get in touch with those directly with those contents from content till creator and like scientists and developers and all of that. So because we have completed a large coverage of viewers and participants to our platform, which I said earlier, it's plus than 100 countries and 50 languages. So we have no limits for now. And also, one of the amazing systems that we introduced to our creators or writers or the people who shares on our platform, which is lightning zaps. So you get sats reward when you create a piece of content. So that zaps amount, it depends on the article originality or the contents within the article. So if it's original made by you, so you get a certain amount of zaps. Or if it is translated from a language to another language, you get your zaps from participating to our platform. And also you can get zapped from your followers and your readers, because we have the support of zapping. You get, so it's like you get zapped from you writing from our large community from, like I said before, plus than 100 countries. And you can set up your unique NIP05 ID and receive instant sets. So it's like it's like motivation for the creator to join our platform and start directly writing and publishing through our ecosystem. So through decentralizations, so Yakihon has connected creators from 100 countries around the world, so bringing together the diverse talents skilled in content productions and project evolutions and hackathon competitions. So as some of you or some of you know or doesn't know, so Yakihon recently have multiple events and hackathons that we organize. So one of them, like hackathon for projects built on Nosu. So if you have an idea or a complete project, so we have this hackathon, so you can participate and expose your work through our community and uh, um, and get judged by our amazing judges like Fiat Jeff and more top OG on the Nostr community. And also you can have the cultural exchange. So this has become a bouncing aspect of Yakihon community. So with the latest uh, uh, with the latest updates of Yakihon, so we received uh, great appreciations and presence from the top OG of Nostr community. And by saying that, so I said the name of Fiat Jeff, and he appreciate our contribution to the Nostr community by giving us a fund, so we can also keep growing our work and keep contributing to the Nostr ecosystem. So from our users and the top writers that we have on our community, so we have the amazing reviews, like you see. For example, it's from Pablo, which is well-known developer and contributor to the Nostr community. So and so many other people and organizations that have tried and used our platform. Uh, not to mention, that at the end we have the mobile applications and we have the mobile application and the website, so you can check on those. So for the mobile applications is like yeah, it's in the testing phase of I mean, like it's like the beta test or something. We try to implement friendly user experience to our clients. I mean, to our users and our community with many options and interaction with the application. And also, we have the it's ready to use the websites. Uh, So I would like to thank everyone who's already participated to Yakihon and the who are not. You can join us by joining the Telegram group or visiting our website. It's free to use, and you can share your ideas, your content, your I don't know, or your creations without limits, without censorship, and we you can get motivated by the Zap function that we have and the grant the grant the grant weekly promotions, so you can get sets and all of that. So just a small introduction to our website. I want to show you the directly the website that we have. So as you can see from the landing page, you have all the informations you have. So you have the uh, trending creations. So for example, in here, like Yakihon, it has like for example 10 articles in one creation. So you can see the amazing friendly user interface like so you can check all the articles within simple creations, and I'm like confident to say that we are the first who did that and implemented that between others scientific and articles media platforms. Also, you can see the articles from within all the relays that you set on your account. For example, in here we see from the older relays that I'm setting. So if I want to filter any relay specifically or by choosing, for example, demos, I can see on the articles that publish on demos, and also you can see the top creators and the top creators from the all of the website on Yakimon, and also filtered by the relay. So it's like dynamically used. And this one, for example, when I did all relays, so you have the creators, top creators from all the relays. But if you change the filter, you're gonna have the top creators from a specific relay. And I just want to mention the functionality which Yakihon are proud of it, and the first, like I said, the first to be implementing that, which is the creation. So you can see here all the creations that people has built, or you can build for yourself by creating articles and then group them within my creations. So, for example, you can create an article by using our smooth and futuristic editor. And then after creating the articles, you can gather those articles. You can gather those articles into like creation by creating a creation, and then gather up your articles within one creations. And if I go to some random articles, you can see here that we have some interesting functionalities, which is upvoting or downvoting the article with dependence on whether you like it or not, and have some comments. You can also comment on the article and bookmarking the article, and also we're gonna implement our own reporting system. It's coming in near future, Also, you can the most important and which users finds the best is like the zapping. So you can tip the articles or tip in directly the writer. So you have a couple of choices to do and also following the article. So if you start creating and publishing on our websites and your articles contents have the most valuable information, so people will follow you and time to time we try to of course us within the like I said the grant system. So we have every day grant system that we can tip or zap people who publish really important articles through our website, our ecosystem. From so we can send the writer, we can say the writer directly or the creator directly, or we can tip for the articles. Um, Also, we have settings. Settings. So we have the bookmarks, the one functionality that we added recently. So if you, for example, like an article and you want to read it later, you can just bookmark it from here, and then go back later to read it. With that being said, we have the research functionality that you can search by keywords or by writers. For example, if I want to search the space keywords, I can have the articles or people that are interested by the space topics, that are interested by the space topics. So also we give the user the possibility to have the settings directly from here and not going to any place to do your settings. For example, the NIP address, configuring the NIP address or the Lightning address directly in here. You can configure and add your preferred relays, and also you can add preferred comments options. So Yakiron is really progressing on the Nostr ecosystem, and by that we each week we have some new updates. So we are keeping the flow. We are adding updates each week. We add new features, and we listen to our users by for example in the Telegram group. If you have any kind of concern, if you have any kind of feedbacks, we listen to you and we appreciate for that feedback or questions, and we will be really communicating and trying to give you the best user experience. And uh, at the end, I just want to thank the organizers for this time, for giving us this time to present and show our work. And I hope you like it. Don't forget to try it at least and give us your thoughts and feedbacks. Thank you.
Thank you, Azak. I think if anybody like Tomo, I think you are still here, right? If you want to have
Yeah.
if you have some questions, yes, of Azak and Yaki-on, I think you can discuss it, and you have one questions 10. Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, you have one chance to ask one question to Azak, and you can discuss the questions of Yaki-on or what here. Yeah, just here.
Yeah.
Yes, what I mean is, Tomo, if you have any questions of Yaki-on, and you can ask Azak here. Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Now I understand. Okay, so I
Yeah,
just
I would be
that,
happy. Yeah, I would be happy to receive any questions about the platform or the business group. Yeah.
right. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Tommy.
Okay. So I just presented that we are trying to bring in the decentralized database Nostr community. And so I have a little bit of a technical question. So how do you store all the media files like images and I mean, if you're storing videos, where do you store those media files? And
Yeah,
are you using like
so
cloud storage or?
to be honest with you, because I handle only the business operations and the marketing operations, I'm
Yeah,
not
sure.
aware of the technical questions. So if you have some times, I can put you directly to the technical group, responsible of the technical group, and you can discuss with him any information on that. Because I can't speak in like for his work or for his specialty.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Right,
sorry
right.
not
That
to
would be
answer
great.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, of course. So if you have any time, I can put you directly into
Yeah,
contacts with him.
yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Tomo, and I think thank you, Isaac. Thank you,
You're
Yaki-on.
welcome.
And like I'm looking forward to Noster's Eco and Yaki-on's future. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
And I think after Isaac's speech, next is Christian Pasateri. Hi, Christian. Are you here?
I am. Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello, hello. And it's your turn. It's your turn. You can share your screen and give us your speech.
Okay, sounds good. Let's cancel that. What just happened? Sorry, just a moment.
Okay, take your time. And what I want to add, if any guest here want to contact any project you want to contact with, just DM me, and I will make some group for you. And you guys all could discuss some potential cooperation with each other. Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you very
I
much.
can hear you.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Christian. I'm on the founding team at My Network. I oversee BD and marketing. And so we're excited today to talk about our Zero Trust framework and our Zero Trust bridge, and talk a little bit about how we're enabling cross-fi and cross-chain within Web3. So first, I just want to talk about Zero Trust generally. So the Zero Trust framework is a framework for dealing with data that says never trust, always verify data, which means that data must be treated as potentially damaged at every stage, at storage, at compute, and at transmission stages. So we have to add, in order to be in alignment with Zero Trust, an encryption process at every stage. And so that's really the heart of what we've tried to build. And we're deploying this framework of Zero Trust into multiple applications. And today I'm going to focus on cross-chain, cross-fi, CBDCs. So I'll kick it off by saying that, broadly speaking, Web3 has a privacy problem, and all data on blockchains is transparent and public. And so our team has the thesis that in order for Web3 to really scale, we have to find a way to let retail users as well as institutional users have better access to privacy and security. So if we can provide sort of, think of it as like push button encryption, decryption over their data, whether that data is financial transactions, geolocational data, any kind of data that's going through Web3 or Web3 networks, this would be optimal for Web3 users as well as the oncoming traditional Web2 users, so that they can maintain privacy and better control over their data, and also better security. So, so these are the problems that we're trying to solve. We'd like to make it so that people can have better security over their data, and we think that hopefully, if we continue to deploy these solutions, we'll be able to enable trillions of dollars of value to come in from Web 2, specifically from traditional banks, from private chains, as well as being able to unlock fragmented liquidity within Web3 and to de-silo a lot of the value that is stored in singular chains at the moment. We believe that the future of Web3 will probably, or definitely is going to be multi-chain. So thousands of public chains, thousands of private chains, and there needs to be a way that they can all, that value can be transacted seamlessly from the user perspective, as well as securely from a regulatory perspective, and also maintaining privacy for the individual users. So this is how we achieve our zero trust framework. We use zero knowledge proofs for the input output, but we use, more importantly, fully homomorphic encryption to allow for data to be computed upon without the need for decryption. So once the data is gone through the ZK, a ZK proof is created of the data, we do not have to decrypt that data in order to run computation on it or to allow third-party computation upon that data. So fully homomorphic encryption has long been considered the holy grail of cryptography. Up until about a year ago, its primary use case was in gene sequencing, because genetic data is considered some of the most sensitive data, if not the most sensitive data. And we decided to try to apply it to Web3. So the ability will be to enable institutions and Web3 users to have push button encryption, decryption over their data, but also not, in very few cases will there ever be a need to actually decrypt the data, because you can run computation on it. So the good thing about this is that your data will always be secure. Our encryption scheme is quantum resistant. So even in the coming years, as quantum computing gains power, we still will be resistant to that. And so this is really a long-term framework that can exist for quite some time around securing your data. So we use the fully homomorphic encryption today is probably where ZKs were maybe 3 years ago. So it's still relatively new. There are still some problems to figure out, but we've deployed workable solutions in an SDK right now that are live. And we really think that within the next year or two, the FHE will be a mainstream term. There are projects popping up all over the place now. There was just an FHE EVM layer 1 that raised a really successful round with a tier 1 venture capital firm just a few weeks ago. So the genie is out of the bottle, so to speak. Now that we know that we can run third-party computation on encrypted data, the applications are going to be widespread. And so we're happy to be one of the first to the market with this solution. So now what I'd like to do is kind of hone in on cross-chain and talking about Web3, public chain to public chain transference of data. So right now, if you listen to, if you look at the market, a lot of value is siloed into, a handful of chains, and many of them are EVM compatible, which means that integration between the chains can be done typically in a day, because roughly 95% of the code is about the same. And so that's great. But what about non-EVM chains? And what about private chains, speaking with public chains? If we can lower the barrier of entry to conduct cross-chain transactions, we enable a world where the liquidity is not as siloed. And particularly in this bear market, we've seen the pains of siloed liquidity and of fragmented liquidity. It's reduced, I think, a lot of DApps' ability to bootstrap. because there's they have to go to a handful of chains where there's liquidity and where there's projects, where there's transactions, where there's volume, and you may be able to get a much better start if you know that that won't be an issue for the chain that you're deploying on, because truly it's a cross chain, it's a multi-chain environment. And there's also a barrier, obviously, from the Web 2 world and traditional finance as well, because if they come into one of two chains, you know, say it's Bitcoin or Ethereum, they now feel siloed because of the security issue of going from those chains to other chains. So a really good example is, you know, Bitcoin, for example, only has about 1 to 2% of at any given time of bridged Bitcoin into other networks, and the most popular is wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. And a portion for that is because is obviously and certainly due to the kind of maximalist, the maximalist. Ooh, can you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, I
Part
can
part of
hear
the,
you.
okay. So part of the reason that so much Bitcoin is locked up in the Bitcoin network and is not bridged is because of a mentality of Bitcoin holders. But there's also a substantial portion that probably would be uh, bridged into other networks if the bridge infrastructure was secure. Some of the problems and the most alarming breaches that have occurred in our industry have been on bridges. So there's definitely a hesitance there. So if there was a way we could create a secure bridge, which my network has done, from Bitcoin into other chains, we could allow some of that to flow in. And of course, Bitcoin is always roughly around, typically around half of the entire market cap. So this would be a lot of value that would be able to flow into other chains, which means it would allow other dApps to get off the ground. It would allow for better trading and market making and liquidity and all of these other chains, and basically help the entire ecosystem. So this is we think this is a really great problem to be solving at the moment. And this is a quick visual, a real 10,000-foot view of Chainlink's CCIP. I just use it as an example because it's probably one of the leading cross-chain protocols at the moment, if not the leading cross-chain protocol for certain. But the ability to go to be able to have secure messaging that allows a user to say, okay, I'm going to start out with Bitcoin, and I'd like to end up in this process with, Avalanche, or I'd like to be staking on some other network. I want to be getting, I maybe would like to aim for 5 or 6% yield on, whatever network. So having an intent-centric messaging system that's secured with FHE plus ZK, and then also allows for security and privacy as the transactions flow. So in other words, sender and receiver data can be protected by FHE and ZK. The transaction type, the asset itself, whether it's whatever the token is or if it's a fiat currency, and the volume of the transaction, of course, all of that can be protected by FHE and ZK. And the whole process then can be one in which we can rely on not just the execution of the transaction, but also the security of the messages that facilitate the transaction. And we would not have to manually take the transaction step to step, right? So, which is what we have to do today. So many of us that are engaged in DeFi activities, we're conducting all the bridges ourselves. We are calculating gas fees. We are finding the right apps to go cross-chain and the right bridges and all of these things. And this is still high maintenance from a traditional standpoint, TradFi standpoint. It's kind of high maintenance even from a lot of Web3 users standpoint. As the amount of chains proliferates, as we get more chains, this will be something that will be so time and energy extensive that it will be cost prohibitive. So this is just a little look at how we can see a cross-chain protocol being used. And you can imagine basically, adding FHE and ZK at this stage and adding it at this stage, encrypting information going to CBDCs, private chains to public chains to private chains. Just kind of an overview of how all that might look. And then I'll skip this for now. And yeah, I think just to kind of wrap up, so, fragmented liquidity is the real issue we think today, and lowering the barrier of entry for TradFi, as well as securing Web3 infrastructure in the way of bridges. These are all problems that we think will really enable trillions of dollars of value to flow into Web3, but also among public chains in Web3, to help builders build better and to be able to bootstrap their products more efficiently and more successfully, and also to deliver on what we think is one of the promises of Web3, which is users truly owning and having granular consent over their data. I think that was one of the promises of Web3 is, we want to tokenize assets in both digitally native assets as well as real world assets, so that we can have ownership over these things, and then we want to be able to control them and offer consent to them in a way that makes sense for us. So we see this framework, this zero trust framework, as a necessary step. So that's all for me. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, I think if anyone have questions, you can just ask Christian. If you don't have any questions, you can DM Christian, I think, or DM Man Network. Yes. Thank you, Christian. Thank you for your speech. And I think I'm looking forward to see the future's Man Network. Okay, so next we will give the warm welcome to Margie. Margie, are you there?
Hello, I'm here.
Hi. Okay. You
Hello.
can start your speech, and if you have some deck or what, you can share your screen.
Thank you so much for inviting me. And I'm sorry, I don't have a presentation. So hopefully, I don't have a deck, but hopefully I don't bore you. I'll make it, try to make it as fun as possible. So hello everyone, my name is Margie Feng. I am the marketing manager from Bitmain. Very happy to be here, and thank you so much for inviting me. So my presentation today, I'll give a little introduction of Bitmain, and then I'll talk about POW mining, and then I will talk about our ASIC brand, Antminer. And by the way, all of our team right now is in Dubai for Blockchain Life. So if you're in Dubai, come check us out. Okay, so a little history of Bitmain. So we were founded in 2013, and all of us know that BTC was invented in 2009, and we were founded in 2013. And then in the same year, we mass produced our first miner. It's the BTC miner Antminer S1. So that's our very first one. And then in 2014, we launched Antpool. And for those of you who have mined, Antpool is a mining pool, one of the leading platforms of mining pools right now. And then 2015, our BTC miners took up the largest market share, and we launched the BTC.com. And then in 2017, we set up entities in the US, Singapore, Malaysia, etc. So basically, we are everywhere in the world. And we launched several POW miners. And then we continue to optimize our hash rate, computing power. In 2019, we led the industry into the era of 40 joules per terahash. And then we keep optimizing. And in 2021, we led the industry into the era of 20 joules per terahash. In 2022, we start to promote hydrocooling. And hydrocooling miners, technologies, containers, and for those of you who have mined, you might be familiar with mining, like how much energy electricity it is consumed. So we're trying to moving toward green energy. So we want to use hydro cooling. We're exploring like different powers, different energy sources. And then 2023, which is this year, we happily announced that we led the industry into the era of 10 joules per terahash. We launched our latest miner, S21 and S21 Hydro, in our World Digital Mining Summit, which we just held this September. It was a very big summit, and many mining companies, investors, and finance people came, and we launched our miners. So that's a pretty big deal, a pretty big event that we hosted this year in Hong Kong. And so our ASIC brand, moving on to our ASIC brand, Antminer. So Antminer provides computing power and infrastructure solutions with excellent energy efficiency ratio for global blockchain networks. So basically, our customers are in more than 100 countries and regions around the world. So everywhere you go, you can see Bitmain customers. And we have multiple production bases, which are located in Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Shenzhen, which is where I'm from. And we have the market share of BTC and other digital currency mining machines ranked first in the world. So we're the world's leading manufacturer of cryptocurrency miners. And we do have different R&D centers. So our R&D centers cover 14 countries and regions, including the US, Singapore, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, etc. So we have a very big team to serve people, to serve our customers who mine in different part of the world. And moving on to the POW mining. So basically, we provide mining machines and mining solutions. So for the mining side, we have so our basically the ROI is for construction and operation ROI is 50%, and then our mining ROI 62%. And it is particularly a very good opportunity right now to mine because the cost is relatively low comparing to the bull market. And that's how I went to different conferences, and people have telling me that it is a good time to try it out, to explore mining, and I want to try it too, but I can't. So it's a pretty good opportunity right now. So if you want to explore mining, contact me or contact Bitmain. So Bitmain, our goal, one of our goals is to support the POW communities. And we uphold win-win cooperation, long-term value, and trustworthy partnership values. We provide very innovative business models, which is the non-fixed price sales model, on-rack mining solutions, market fluctuation protection, which is like if the market prices go down, we will give you protection, and so you don't lose too much money, or we kind of protect you from losing money. And we promote the construction of mining facilities, and we do hosting, and we do consign to own models. So all of the details, if you want to know, you can go visit our website, and we have details on our website. Also, we do a lot of give back, giveaway. In the bear market, we issue a lot of Antminer coupons to customers in the amount of several hundred million since June 2022. And also, we do a lot of Twitter spaces to support the POW communities. And during this Twitter spaces, we also issue a lot of coupons and sometimes free miners. So if you are interested in getting a free miner or getting coupons, you can participate in our Twitter spaces. Usually it's very fun, and I'll host those. So also, we have liquidity support to long-term customers. We provide cash loans in the amount of several $100 million to help customers to overcome the credit crunch, and we expand hosting cooperation to increase customers' cash flow. So basically, we do everything catering to our customer demands, and we want to protect their rights and protect their money. So that's what we do. So besides Bitmain, we have different like partners. Like the one I just mentioned, we have Npool. So Npool is a leading cryptocurrency mining pool that provides safe, stable, and efficient mining pool services. And it actively participates in the ecological construction of the POW community. And also we have Ant Alpha. If you have not heard of it, it is a leading crypto asset management platform. So it basically gives you loans to do hosting or construct mining facilities. And also we have Bitfufu. It is a cloud mining platform. So it provides digital asset mining service, and it is the world's leading cloud service provider. So basically, we have different brands. We have Antminer, we have Npool, we have Ant Alpha, and Bitfufu. It's a pretty big team, and to serve you along the way of mining. And then let's go into Antminer. So we try to provide the best hash rate. We try to provide you the best experience. So since we were founded in 2013, we have already optimized our energy efficiency by more than 100 times. And our hash rate, it is increased by more than 1,400 times. So I think it's a very big improvement, and that's why we are always the #1 in market share. And I think anyone who mine will have heard of Bitmain before, and that's why we continue to do that since 2013. So the hash rate of Antminer BTC miners has increased by 3 orders of magnitude, and the energy efficiency have improved by 2 orders of magnitude. And the S21 that we have launched in 2023, which is this year, is leading us into 10 joules per terahash era. So it is a very big step for us. So POW miners, I will talk about something about, because I am managing the POW community development. So I will talk more about POW in my presentation. So firstly, I will talk about what tokens that we cover. We have, of course, BTC, BCH, BSV. Also, we have LTC and Doge, L7. That's one of our biggest one, a very, very popular one, L7. We have miners for Caspa, KS3, which is a very popular one too. I think we totally sold out. I think it's sold out during like WDMS, so it's very popular. Also, we have ETC. E9. So the miner is E9 Pro. We have ETC. We did a lot. So we did a lot to support ETC community. So we have ETC Grand Style. Don't know if you have heard about it. It is a project that is sponsored partly by Bitmain and ETC Cooperative. So basically what we do is that we choose we choose projects that has great potential to fund. And so now we just finished the first round of funding. We selected 17 projects, and they're all in very good progress. And we will have a second round and third round. So that's what we do, like the ETC Grand Style program. Also, we have ZEC, we have Z15, Z15 Pro, and CKB, K7, Dash, D9, and KDA, K3. And also for LTC, we did so we founded this LTC Labs with LTC Foundation, and so basically support them with their events, with their tokens, and and on the other hand, we do a lot of sponsorship to events such as like POW Summit to support the POW development. So that meeting, POW Summit, was just held in Prague this October or September. In Prague in September, that was hosted by ETC and LTC. So that's the first round of that summit, and it's very fun. Partly because it's in Prague too. So last but not least, we have this very extensive after-sales service network to ensure that you have a smooth mining experience, and to ensure that you have this good mining experience with Bitmain. So basically, we have 22 maintenance outlets. We have more than 100 certified technicians getting ready to repair your miners. And we have 2 customer contact center, 1 spare part warehouse, and 10 overseas spare part warehouse. We have more than 200K maintenance volume per year, and more than 50K consultation volume per year. Also, in addition, we have more than 92% service satisfaction and 99.5% operation and maintenance online qualification rate per year. So basically, we have people and places for you, like getting ready to make sure that you have a good mining experience. So basically, that's all of my presentation. And I want to say here that because I do POW, and if you have a good POW projects or events or panels or events like this, you can let me know. You can DM me, and we will think about, like helping you, supporting you, sponsoring you, and to develop the POW ecosystem together. And also, you can pay attention to our miners, S21 and S21 Hydro. They're our latest miners, and I think it will surprise you with great computing power. And I'll take some questions if you have some. That's all of my presentation.
Thank you, Maggie. And thank you for your speech, and thank you for your time. And I think we will, if anyone have some questions for Maggie, you can DM her. Maybe they can search you on Twitter, right?
Yeah, it's Margie Fang LL.
Okay. Great,
Yes.
great. Thank you for your time.
Mhm.
And I think we will have a 15 minutes break. And after that, we will have another panel stage. So thank you, Maggie. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Bye. Hey everyone, I think we have finished our 15 minutes break, and here we go. We will turn to our first panel. The first panel will be hosted by Elaine. She's from Waterdeep Capital, and everyone is here, right? I think except DMAC. Right, DMAC have something to do. So yeah. Oh, DMAC here. Okay. Hello, DMAC. Can you hear me? Hello. DMAC, hello.
DMAC? Not me, right? I'm Matt. I'm
Hello,
not
Matt.
DMAC. Yeah.
Yes, I saw DMAC, but Dan Donald? Yes, maybe he can't open his mic. Elaine, Elaine.
Oh, hello.
Elaine Yang,
Are we here?
are you here?
Yeah, hello everyone. So this is Elaine.
Hi.
Nice to meet you guys.
Hi. I'm sorry. Hi, the
Hello?
mic. Hello. I can see
Can
you.
you guys not hear?
You are so professional. Yeah. Okay, and here we have Moss, right?
Matt.
Matt. I'm really
Yeah.
sorry. I'm really sorry. Okay, Jerry, are you here? Jerry?
Can you hear this?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, okay.
Hello?
Maybe we have
Can you hear me?
Can you guys hear me?
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Christian, are you here?
I am here.
Okay, let's start our panel. So I think Elaine, you can start your
Test.
host.
Hello. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. So, nice to meet you guys, and thanks for the Pamadao's invitation. So firstly, let me introduce myself and our capital. So this is Elaine from Waterdeep Capital, and now that I'm taking charge of our primary market investment. So Waterdeep was founded in 2017, which was by several Bitcoin very OG investors. So nowadays we have a very important investment thesis that is to focus on the Bitcoin ecosystem. So today it's very honored to join this Bitcoin&Arweave event. And moreover, we will launch Satoshi Labs soon, which will help to build up the Bitcoin ecosystem, and we will publish the news soon. So looking forward to it. And back to our panel today. So today's our panel's topic is the rising eco of the Web3 in Asia. So we have our guest speaker here, that is Gary from Evervision, and DMAC from Arweave, and Christian from Man Network, and Matt from Taco. So could every speaker here introduce yourself? So firstly, let me introduce Gary. Could you introduce yourself?
Yes. Thanks for having me here. I'm a CMO of Evervision, and I'm Jerry, not Gary, it's Jerry.
And sorry.
No problem. And I have been working in the blockchain industry for 5 years. I used to work at Untoken, a wallet company, for 4 years before joining Evervision. And Evervision is a Web3 infrastructure provider based on the Arweave consensus, Arweave ecosystem. And our main infrastructure includes the payment protocol, Everpay, and a DEX, the PermaSwap, and various open source toolkit for developers to build Arweave. And we propose ecosystem co-build DAO, PermaDAO. And the most important product among this is the Everpay payment protocol. The feature of this it's are no TPS limited, millisecond transactions, and no gas fee. These features allow Everpay to be used in high frequency, low cost applications that are almost non-existent in Web3 application today. But this is a very important scenario for opening mass adoption. Very happy to be here and have this opportunity to discuss some topics with you guys.
Thank you, Gary. And next, maybe Dan.
Gary.
Yeah. Dan, please.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry about the technical problems at the beginning there. My name's DMAC. I've been in the Arweave ecosystem a number of years now, builder in the ecosystem. And I also contributed to some of the efforts at Forward Research in supporting updates to the protocol. Currently, I'm working on a Rust implementation of the Arweave mining software that aims to lower the barriers to entry for participating in mining, as well as broadens the incentives and giving people more reasons to mine.
Thank you, DMAC. And the next, please, Christian. Yeah.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm on the founding team of MyNetwork.xyz. I head up BD and marketing. And MyNetwork is a zero trust layer for Web3, and as well as TradFi, built on a zero trust framework that is comprised of fully homomorphic encryption and zero knowledge proofs.
Thank you, Christian. Next, maybe Matt, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Matt, Community Director of Taco. I've been investing in cryptocurrencies since about 2018. So I don't know if I'm OG enough yet for this space, but currently at Taco, we're building smart contracts for decentralized social protocols like Lens Protocol and Farcaster. So we're making it easy for promoters to promote their Web3 products in a decentralized way with the help of influencers and content curators and Lens Protocol. Most recently, we bought Jam, which was the second largest client of Farcaster, a decentralized social graph built on Optimism and notably used by Vitalik Buterin. And we're currently developing that into an all-inclusive SocialFi protocol that aggregates data from both the Lens and Farcaster Web3 social graphs into a Twitter UI, UX, and we're really excited about the direction of SocialFi and the intersection of decentralized finance and decentralized social media.
Thank you, guys. So today we have 4 guest speakers here, and they are maybe from global. So today our first topic is because of the regulation problem. So nowadays the US maybe is not very welcome for the Web3 or crypto. So because since last year, so Hong Kong government is and Singapore, they are promote the Web3 a lot, and they welcome more builders to go to Asia. So what do you guys think about what's the current status of the Web3 industry in Asia, or maybe in the area nowadays where you're based? So maybe from Jerry firstly, do you have an opinion? Yeah. Hello, Jerry. You mute yourself.
Sorry, I mute myself. Yes, and now we're based in Singapore and China mainland. Our headquarters is in Singapore. And about the ecosystem in Asia, of course, Asia with a massive population of almost 4 billion, is a huge market. And the passion Asians have for crypto is off the charts. So making the perfect playground. Back in the day, China was undoubtedly the powerhouse in Asia. Now, when I was working at Token, I felt the energy of this vast market. Projects from all over the world are hoping to find opportunity in this market. Since Token had 14 million users, and 80% of them were Chinese. It was a go-to gateway. Yeah, but the past couple of years have shaken things up. The Chinese Web3 market faced some serious crackdowns from the government. It went cold in no time. Lots of projects had chosen to leave China. Some tried to Southeast Asia, others Europe, the Middle East, or the Americas. For a while, my social media was filled with industry folks, global charting, attending the conferences and chasing opportunities. Everyone started off super pumped, but gradually I could feel that they were exhausted. After a bit over a year, many funds themselves draw back to Asia or places close to China, breaking into because breaking into the markets in Middle East, Europe, or Americas is extremely difficult, with the language and culture background barriers making localizing super tough. So right now the well-resourced the projects are setting their headquarters in Singapore, making it their base to tap into Asia and even Middle East. Yeah, some went to Thailand or Vietnam, etc. Some are still staying in China mainland, but they have to be low key. Yeah, but recently the good news is Hong Kong, as Chinese the window to the Web3 has given Web3 guys a temporary landing spot targeting the Chinese market. It's hard to predict what will happen in the future, but it's an option for now. The Hong Kong government is rolling out some sweet incentives for the Web3 folks. So I think it's a good time to grab whatever perks are on offer during this window of opportunity. So yeah, that's what I want to share.
So Jerry, did you receive some support from Singapore government or any Hong Kong?
We are a payments network, and we can help them to optimize the financial system. Yeah. So we have not directly not support directly, but we have a connection with them.
Do you think it's very easy for your project to explore the market in Asia? Your community member or your other traffic something?
Yes. We specialize in we specialize in Chinese community. If the net market is a Chinese community, Chinese market, that is easier for us. But if that's market is English speaking market or English speaking community, we have to find a way to communicate with them. In different place has a different culture. Not only the Singapore, but also the Malaysia, Thailand, or Vietnam, etc. So we have to find a way to communicate with them and express who we are and what we do, and let them know we can do some or we can optimize or give them some benefit. Yeah, like that.
Okay. Thank you. Next, Dimak, we know that Arweave have a very strong community in Asia, also globally. So maybe could you tell us what's your opinion about, what do you think about the Web3 statue in Asia?
Hey, Elaine, do you mind if I go next? DMAC, do you
Oh,
mind?
let's talk.
I have to
Okay.
drop off at 10:30 for
Oh,
another
okay.
meeting.
Yeah, so maybe Matt, Matt, you can go first. Yeah.
Okay, so I think, yeah, Asia is hugely important for blockchain development. Of course, we have developers in mainland China. We're based in Singapore, though. There's a huge base of support with both within the mainland and Hong Kong. Hong Kong has recently opened up. I think that Jerry expressed it very well, and it's sort of that window into China, if you will. They've held conferences there. They most recently had a conference there. Singapore also had Token 2049 in August, which I attended, and was well attended by pretty much everyone in cryptocurrency. I think it's also pertinent to say that Asia has a huge growing middle class. I know it was mentioned that there's 4 billion people, but also the middle class is just huge, and they're all tech forward. They're used to making payments with some type of electronic currency, whether it be the people of China with Alipay or WeChat Pay, or the people of Hong Kong just with Apple Pay. So I think that if you're not incorporating Asia into your future plans for the growth of your project, then you're and assets like this. So and there's also just a huge class of developers coming from Asia that if you're not letting them build upon your project, you're missing out on some serious functionality, and that functionality would then bring more users to your platform, whatever that platform may be. So you really need to incorporate Asia into all your future plans if you're a builder. I think otherwise you're just missing a huge swath of the world population. And just want to say that I think cryptocurrency is a living thing now, and it's out of the control and purview of any one government. It's not something that they could shut down, even if they all came and wanted to. I don't think it would be possible.
Okay, got it. And I know Taco now is a social middleware, right? I think
Recording in progress.
I think it's the right. Oh yeah, it's the ZK project, right? Taco.
Yeah, it's a middleware between Lens and like other application layers like Lenster and Favor and Orb. So basically, it can connect through smart contract functionality any type of advertiser or promotion, or even if you just want like say you're a big fan of Blackpink, and Blackpink is on Lens, and you want them to do a promotion for your birthday. On Taco, you could directly send them like 1,000 Matic and say, "Can you please like send this post for my birthday wish?" And then they could go ahead and send it, accept your offer of 1,000 Matic, and it would automatically send that post like, "Happy birthday, Elaine from Blackpink." And that's pretty much the smart contract functionality of Taco on Lens. It's not something that is currently possible on a centralized social media like Instagram or Twitter, right? But on decentralized social media that is composable with the blockchain, you can have this sort of advertiser meets influencer in a trustless way, smart contract functionality, and that's what we envision for the future.
Okay, so as for because you are taking charge of the community, so what's the difference, maybe Asian community members and with other global community member, what's their different way, and how you achieve your like go-to-market strategy with these two different community areas of the community? What do you think their character of especially for the Asian community members? Yeah.
Well, I think right now, from the community perspective, we're focusing on 2 languages, English and Mandarin Chinese. So that means strategic partnerships with 2 different types of media. We've already reached strategic partnership with Blockbit, I think they're called, which is like #1 Chinese crypto media, and we're looking for another English media partner, strategic partner to align with us, not just by like a basket of articles and go from there. We actually want whatever media partner we choose to actually invest in our project. And so I think we'd have to, that's where we'll start, and we can go out from there with perhaps Vietnamese or some other language of community manager. But these are the first two swaths of Web3 users that we're targeting. And of course, it's within a limited pool, because currently our project, it's only compatible with Lens. It will be compatible with Farcaster in the future, but we're targeting these two language speakers within Lens protocol, basically, currently.
Okay. So, what do you think, maybe, what do you need to improve in developing the Web3 ecosystem in Asia? Do you have any advice for other projects?
I would say, yeah, well, you need people to onboard the Asian community that understand the Asian community, and that's why we have people that we've hired in Singapore. We have people that we hired in China, and also create a UI UX that's super functional on Web3 social. It's quite early in Web3 social, and I don't know if you guys have used Lens, but there is definitely a learning curve and an onboarding curve for people that haven't used it before. And you need a guide, like video guide, take them through it step by step. Even with tech forward Asian communities, if the UI UX it provides a lot of friction, then they'll just be like, it's probably not worth it. Even if there's a financial incentive, as there is with our product.
Okay, nice. So, Matt, if you have anything need to go for our next meeting, yeah, you can get off. And if you have any other things you want to share with us.
No, yeah, I've got 5 minutes. I'll hand it over to DMAC. I'm sorry, DMAC. Just a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
So I mean,
No,
for the tackle, I know you're doing the social middleware. So, for the Asian market nowadays, we are very actively trying to find some social applications, especially, for example, before there's a friend tech. So before so many Chinese KOL or
right.
Asian,
Yeah.
so
Taco
how you
is one of our products.
expand? Yeah, how you expand your like Asian or other markets? Yeah.
Okay, so our narrative is basically this: the way the DeFi market expanded is the way the social market is going to expand. So right, first we had Uniswap, then we had Uniswap copies, and they all had governance tokens, just like Uniswap. And now we have Friendtech, but Friendtech isn't composable with Web3. Those keys, like they're not necessarily investable assets. If they were, then they would be under like the purview of the SEC. So Friendtech is based upon Twitter, and that provides lots of limitations for where Friendtech can go. But with Lens and Farcaster, these are actually DeFi composable protocols. So just like there was an ERC20 push within DeFi, and just like there was an NFT push, seemingly also within DeFi, we foresee a totally new asset class being born within DeFi, and I'm tentatively calling these assets dynamic social tokens, because they're so volatile and they depend largely upon like the fan base that a creator, influencer, or curator has maintained, and that's sort of our narrative, not only for the Asian community, but the entire Lens community. And so we're trying to build infrastructure and a marketplace for these new dynamic social tokens. And we've also built like the Friendtech of Polygon, which is Gem Friends. We're not just Taco Protocol. Taco Protocol is just one of our products. The other is Jam Friends, which is it's a SocialFi protocol built upon Lens's social graph and Polygon's unique payment infrastructure. So yeah, just building upon that.
Okay. Thank you, Matt, for your advice and for your opinions, insights. Very interesting and very respect. So maybe we will invite DMAC. So yeah, as I mentioned, Arweave also have strong community members in Asia, also globally. So could you maybe introduce more about what's your opinion about Asian market? Yeah.
Well, sure. I mean, Asia has long, and specifically China, has long been a powerhouse in mining cryptocurrencies and mining blockchains. And a lot of hash power or contribution to mining has come from China traditionally. And Arweave is no exception. There's always been a strong mining community, mining presence in China. But in the last couple of years, and I would attribute a lot of this to the efforts of Evervision, there's been an increasing amount of user-facing applications and infrastructure built on top of Arweave within Asia. And as a result, we've seen more and more investment going into these types of projects. I was able to attend Arweave Day in Asia in Singapore recently, and the projects that were being demoed there by teams were innovative. They were fascinating. There was lots of interesting things going on, especially with regards to social. Some of the big themes in social right now, there's AI that's impacting content creation with generative content, and also the ability to create counterfeit content. And that seems something that blockchains and specifically Arweave are well positioned to address, because you can store everything from a single tweet to an 8-hour-long movie on Arweave, and you can attach metadata to that content that proves it was generated by you, by your wallet, when it was created. And along with that, a rising theme on Arweave is this concept of real world rights. So what that means is there is in the world, there's copyright, and copyright has a bunch of different rights that it gives the creator or the holder of the copyright. And it says, you can allow people to use this work or not. You can allow them to use it commercially or not. You can allow them to do derivative rights or not. And increasingly, some of the rights around data is like, you can actually say whether you want the data to be used for training AI or not. And what's happening on Arweave is these data rights are being associated with the data itself. So as users are posting data to Arweave, they're able to attach these rights and actually receive royalty payments for commercial use or derivative use and stuff like that. And so what we're starting to see is a lot of the social applications being built on Arweave or storing their content on Arweave are starting to tap into these real world rights and allow content creators to earn revenue streams from license fees or licensing their copyright.
Okay. So what do you think do you think it will have the problem with the US like compliance problem in the future?
Arweave specifically, or real world rights?
Yeah, Arweave.
I mean, every blockchain needs to be able to deal with the fact that at some point there may be policy or regulation that's leveled against it. Very different political climates around the world have, as you know, different approaches to how they feel about decentralization and blockchain. China has been, like I mentioned, a powerhouse in mining, but it seems to go through this cycle where every now and then the government cracks down on mining, and miners have to leave the area, but yet mining still survives. And so what really benefits Arweave in this area is that it is completely decentralized. It is proof of work. Anyone can participate in the network, anyone can run the Arweave mining software if they have the storage space to do it. And that means that if any one political environment is aggressive or hostile towards Arweave and the miners have to move, they can start up in any other area on Earth without any kind of permission or needing to check in with any kind of business that's regulated.
Okay. So, how about could you maybe introduce more about Arweave's this year's events, which was happened in Asian area? What did you guys do, and maybe to expand the Asian's market?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, Arweave Day in Asia actually originated 2 years ago now in Singapore, largely hosted by Evervision and the Arweave community in Asia. And it was such a big success, the sense of community, the projects shown off, the conversations that happened, that it became something that actually was imitated in the West. And so at different crypto events like ETH Denver, ETH Lisbon, and a couple others, Arweave community members just started to create Arweave days alongside these events to sort of replicate or what happened in Singapore 2 years ago. And so I was lucky enough to attend Arweave Day in Singapore this year. And it was a fantastic event. Great speakers, great panels. Mostly though, I was really impressed with the consumer applications, the consumer crypto applications that were coming out of the Asian ecosystem. And so, yeah, I would definitely recommend that if you're,
Cool.
yeah.
Sorry, Jerry, what do you want to say? Maybe.
No, I just want to say, Arweave in Berlin. That's another big event.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
what do you think the maybe like Lisbon's vibe with the like Singapore's vibe? What's the difference? What do you think?
That's interesting. Lisbon, yeah, it was a very different venue in Lisbon. And I would say, like, at least for me personally, some of the projects, I felt like there was, I guess, more content or more projects in Singapore. And I was more familiar with the projects that were shown in Lisbon. So it was great to sort of meet and see some of these projects that I was as familiar with and hear a status update. But in the Singapore event, I felt like every project that I was hearing about, the teams that are meeting, I knew some of them, but the vast majority of them were new to me. And it was exciting to see all of the projects that were, many of them were already using the open data license, which is those real world copyrights for content. They were already using that in their applications. And so I was really impressed with, how quickly this technology was being adopted.
Nice. Yeah, yes, because last year I also went to US, Singapore, Hong Kong, for different big events, and also this year. So I feel like Asian market nowadays, most of the projects, and also for the European, the US project, they are moving to the especially for the Singapore and Hong Kong to find more community members. So I think it's very important for the Web3 projects, their strategy switch. So also, okay. So I would like to ask about the Christian's opinions and insights. So I know Man Network is a ZK and AI infrastructure. So maybe Christian, how did you guys to expand your Asian market? And yeah, I have no Man Network also have the table in the Singapore, right? Token 2049. Yeah. So Christian, I would like to hear your advice.
So our team
Hello?
is
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
So our team is distributed like many teams, and I'm based in the States. We have many team members based in mainland China as well as Singapore and some in Europe. It's been really interesting to watch this migration from the States with our current regulatory environment. Some of the leaders here in North America are very publicly moving. They're going to Singapore, they're going to London. Gemini famously opened a London office. A16Z is hosting their accelerator there. So I've been kind of here for the last year watching this and watching certain senators band together and working with the SEC to try to fight crypto, and it's disheartening. But the good thing is that with crypto and the nature of distributed teams, you can take advantage of different regulatory environments. So we've just seen so much more of an embrace in Singapore, particularly. There are state-sponsored organizations in Hong Kong that have reached out to help promote our business. So that's been very promising. Yeah, Token 2049 was easily our biggest event of the year. In terms of attendance, in terms of the side parties, we had a side event, and we ended up having, I think, 5 times as many guests as we thought we were going to have. So it's been so much better received, and so there's a lot of reasons for it. In the West, there's still some. I think they're even stricter toward the regulatory philosophy, and not totally clear what's going to happen. And you also have a less digitally native, I think, population. I think, like was mentioned before, I think Jerry said, or maybe Dan, it was, so many APAC citizens are just used to going through, these apps for everything, whether it's WeChat or whatever. So it's just more intuitive. We still have a large percentage of our population that are sort of Luddites, even in Web 2. So trying to get them into Web 3 is a whole nother issue. The wallet barrier of entry has been a big issue. And that's a problem that a lot of Web 2 brands here are trying to solve. I've worked with companies like Nike and Adidas and Amazon and Shopify, and they're trying to find ways around this wallet situation because they just recognize that a large percentage of Westerners are never going to download MetaMask or the like. So they're trying to find solutions. And what I think is going to emerge is a lot of centralized solutions. Unfortunately. So there seems to be, I think, a deep philosophical understanding coming out of the APAC market, about the importance of decentralization and the importance of digital nativism in building these apps. But yeah, we've had great success this year. A lot of Asian governments that are building CBDCs, for example, are actually open talking with us about adding privacy to them. The large concern about CBDCs is that it offers this incredible oversight tool for governments, and I think people are rightly concerned about that. And it looks like, from the data we're seeing, 93% of central banks have a CBDC in development or plan to launch in the next 12 to 36 months. So they're kind of coming, regardless of whether or not we want them. The best case scenario is that we'd be able to add a privacy layer using fully homomorphic encryption and ZKs. And we've had positive responses to that outbounding in APAC markets, not so much in North American and European markets. So that was a pleasant surprise as well. And then, yeah, I mean, I guess to speak in terms of the looking at some of the macro information, just sheer population. Like we said, there's so many more people there, and I think there's also there's a gamification piece as well that I think social D apps and a lot of GameFi apps and even DeFi apps can really flourish with. So much more of the APAC community is really interested in the gamification of any app. People like to figure out, how do I kind of hack this system and get paid? How do I figure out how to game the system? And they like these kind of incentive driven D apps. So those have taken over. When we talk to GameFi and these really great DeFi projects, a lot of them aren't based here, and it's because I think a smaller percentage of the population is as interested or enthusiastic about that. So that's been really cool to see as well.
So my network is trying to solving the on-chain data's privacy problem. But some people, many Web3 people may ask, does the Web3 people really care about the privacy? So what do you think about it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it does depend. Looking at there's a difference in opinion across global markets. I think that we've got the wind at our back in two separate regards. One is that at the beginning of the year, we started off with this Twitter files scandal, and finding out that everybody uses Twitter and that Twitter was offering backdoor access to government agencies for censorship. So that story broke, and that was the culmination, I think, of 5 years of stories that started with Cambridge Analytica and Facebook. And so there is a concern around how our data is being used. We see that in Web 2 pretty broadly. And I don't think data privacy is, at least in my lifetime, been a very sexy term, but it's as close as it is ever going to be, I think, right now. And then in Web 3, if you've been in Web 3 for 4, 5, 6, 7 years and you're looking at your wallets, there's an incredible amount of identifying data in there. The DAOs that you participate in signify what causes you care about and what you're interested in. You can make a psychological profile of somebody kind of based on that. You see geolocational data, you see financial transactions. So I think that, right now Web3 is still a little bit siloed and there's not a lot of crossing between Web 2 and Web 3, but as more big brands enter the space and you can see more on-chain data of people's engagement with larger brands like Starbucks or Nike or some of these bigger brands, people will be even more sensitive to how much of their data says about them, how much it really says about them, and there will be a need to make it private. So, the answer to do Web3 people care about privacy? It's I think it's increasingly yes. And as it starts to break out, into taking over more of our digital experience, I think it absolutely will be a concern for most people. So, and just to kind of touch on that again, this zero trust framework has really been taking off. FHE, fully homomorphic encryption, which allows what this does, this technology, it's considered the holy grail of cryptography for many years. Vitalik has written about it. A lot of prominent cryptographers have written about it. It allows for third-party computation to be performed on encrypted data without the need for decryption. So that's a game changer for the internet completely, because if you don't have to worry about decrypting the data ever, you reduce the attack vectors, you reduce the breachability. I mean, it becomes so much more secure. And so this technology is it's really, we see it as bigger than ZKs in terms of its use cases. And it's also probably where ZK technology was in 2020, early 2020. So over the next few years, you'll be hearing about it a lot. And a year ago, there were maybe a handful of companies, and now there are dozens that are starting up in this space with this technology. So it really is the final mile problem for onboarding TradFi into Web3, because they have cross-chain, they're starting to get cross-chain interoperability, but they don't have the security features yet to make the regulators happy. So once we solve that last problem, a ton of liquidity comes into Web3, and a ton of the liquidity that's in Web3, but that's fragmented, now gets unleashed, and cross-chain interoperability just becomes the standard. And the steps to go from Bitcoin to Avalanche or whatever the chain is, from whatever chain, even public to private and vice versa, become significantly reduced. So that will manifest into really easy UX, and I think that will manifest into onboarding the next billion users.
When you guys go to market, do you lead with privacy or security?
That's a good question.
You mean for the investor? Oh, sorry, Christian.
Yeah, we led with privacy, and as we've started to partner with institutions that are working directly with regulators, it's better to focus on the security, which the security improvements are far and away much better than existing standards. So we're helping to rewrite security standards, but the privacy feature is core as well and is necessary. But we have to be mindful of being lumped in the same bucket as Monero or Zcash. Regulators all know them and don't like those. So we've had to be careful, because that's not what we're doing. We do have a partnership with Chain Analysis. If bad actors are on the network, they have to be able to be identified and accountable. So that is in there. That process is available, but we just want that process to be a lot more difficult than it currently is. Right now, it's currently very easy to find anybody, good, bad, or indifferent.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So maybe I have one more question, last question for three speakers here. So as we all know, this year AI is be a very hot topic. So what's the AI applied in your projects, or what's your opinion about AI? Maybe how to apply in the Web3? Yeah, maybe Jerry, you can go first. Yeah, you mute yourself. Hi, Jerry, you mute yourself.
Sorry. About AI for the project.
Yeah, AI,
Okay.
how to apply in your ever vision, or what do you think? How to combine with Web3?
Okay. About AI, we don't have a plan to integrate AI into our product. You know, our product is the first co-product is Apple Pay as a payment network, and second is the DEX. So far we don't have a plan to do that on our products. But for about Web3, now I just want to discuss about I just want to share my thoughts about Web3, because several times a lot of people are discussing what is in my view. I think that the Web3 is not the opposition or isolation ecosystem or system from the Web2. I think they are the same things, because the name of Web3 is based on the Web2. So the Web3 is upgrades of the Web2, and the blockchain technology, crypto stuff. I think it's not the whole things of Web3. It's part of Web3. And the Web3, I think in the future, the Web3 must looks like Web2 plus crypto or blockchain technology plus AI plus AR, VR, or the 6G, etc. So that is Web3. I think in the future, if we want to make the Web3 can achieve the mass adoption and in the whole industry or in the community, the AI can help the Web3 to do a lot of things. But related to this topic, I don't have more things
No worries.
can share.
Thank you for Jerry's opinion. How about Dinak?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that this is my personal opinion with AI and decentralization or blockchains. The way I look at it as this is that actually these are on different ends. The technologies are on different ends of a spectrum. So when I look at AI, I see a technology that asks you to give away your responsibility. So when you interact with AI, it says, hey, let me generate this content, or let me find this information for you, or let me do something for you. And it's very, very good at it. And it is a big increase in efficiency. But ultimately, you're delegating to the technology. You're giving away your responsibility and just saying, okay, let the AI take care of it. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have decentralization, like things with no center, that pushes responsibility to the edges of the network. And so what blockchains do and what decentralization does is it asks users to take responsibility, and then AI asks you to give it away. And so for me, like, something really powerful about decentralization and blockchains is this ability to give individuals rights. So for example, on Arweave, in the USA, for example, there's the freedom of speech is one of the constitutional rights, but not all areas of the world have access to, not all governments in the world give their citizens those rights. But what Arweave does is it gives a version of speech in cyberspace. It gives a version of that to anyone who uses Arweave. And what that does is it moves something like a human right that was in the political domain, and it moves it into the domain of technology. You know, something that once could only be offered by governments, now a version of that can actually be created and offered to humanity through technology. And that's an incredibly powerful thing that a blockchain like Arweave can give the rights to people in the world. Now, there's a lot of really interesting technology that's happening where people are trying to mix blockchains and AI and sort of have that empowering individual rights, and then using that to sort of constrain how much AI can, I guess, exploit people, because a real issue with AI is that at a large enough scale, it can actually be used to manipulate individuals or populations. And so that's a potential downside, along with the obvious upsides of AI. And so sometimes merging those two things could produce AI that's aligned with human rights.
Thank you for your DMAX for your insights. Yeah, I know Arweave is like so many decentralized DApp. Like our also one of our portfolio also deploy on the Arweave for the decentralized data. So it's very useful. I think in the future data will be like amount of the data in the future. So how to like decentralize the like storage will be a huge problem. Yeah. How about Christian? Do you have an yeah, I know a network already be AI and Web3, so you have more opinion, I think, about this
We're focused
topic.
on we're focused on AI as well, and I want to say DMAC makes a really wonderful point, which is through this technology we can start to enable human rights that we've had to rely historically on governments for providing. Governments which work for people, by the way, are supposed to. So this is a really cool period in time, because the standards that we set could enable rights to people across the globe that have never been this prolific before. I think it's really, really, you know, we're setting that level, those standards and those protocols now, which is really exciting. And so specifically when it comes to AI, we're looking at the front end of AI and the back end of AI. So our product, again, is Zero Trust. So on the front end, you know, we launched MindX, which is basically a ChatGPT DApp. So this allows you to own your chat history. So when you're chatting with ChatGPT, instead of just giving all that information to ChatGPT so they can enrich their model, you're actually storing it. You can store it on your local computer. You can encrypt it, and you can either keep the plain text or the ciphertext. And the idea is that this capability will then allow you to take these chat histories and go to any bot. So we want, instead of there just being a few chat bots that everybody uses and a few image generators that everyone uses, like there are hundreds or thousands. So we don't want there to be too much power aggregated in the app provider, which would just be an extension of Web 2, right? We want there to be all of these apps working for the individual users so that you can bring this encrypted data into a chat so it already knows you. You don't have to spend 15 minutes prompting it to answer you the way that you'd like. And then of course the prompting itself, how you get the bot to give you the answer that you want, is also IP, right? That should be proprietary data too. There are prompt markets coming up everywhere, like with FlowGPT. So there's value there as well. So on the front side, we're helping protect that data, encrypt that data. Then on the back side, you have this concept of like, well, who gets to decide what the truth is that these bots are using? You know, the data that's being fed to them to train the models. Where does that database come from? Who gets to decide that? Well, right now it's OpenAI and it's Google and it's Microsoft. What if, you know, if we decentralize the back end and we have nodes contributing to this, now you get to decentralize essentially what truth is. So, you know, this sounds kind of philosophical from, I think, a citizen point of view. We obviously want that. What is there a motivation for companies to do that? And the answer is yes. So Microsoft's head of their GM of AI has already said, you know, we don't want a product that seems really politically biased or religiously biased or social biased, because that will limit our market penetration potentially. So they do want a decentralized backend, and they're investigating having a decentralized backend for their AI. So there's two different areas that I look at that you can work on, and so my network is working in both areas.
Okay, thank you guys. Yeah, we already spent like almost 1 hour. It's 1 hour. Yeah, time fly fast. So yeah, thank you for all the guest speakers here to share your insights. yeah, it's very mindful. And yeah, so maybe every one speaker say last sentence to all the audience here. Yeah, maybe Jerry, to finish today's panel. Maybe Jerry, yeah.
Mm,
Do you have
okay,
any else to share? Yeah.
Share what?
Just
What else?
anything you want to. Yeah. For example, your future plan or your ever vision
Okay.
to. Yeah.
Okay, our vision. Yeah, our vision. Yeah, our vision. So I want to say that our co product Everpay again. Because Everpay has don't need the gas fee and don't have a TPS limit. So Everpay can use in we will explore the high frequency and low cost scenario. And I think this is the most important things for the whole industry, because now in this in Web3 industry, don't have high frequency and low cost applications. So we want to do that things with our partners and open the door for the normal users and help them to onboard to Web3. Maybe in 1 to 2 months, we'll launch new things in the future. So stay tuned. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jerry. And DMAC, do you have anything else you want to share in the end of our panel?
Yeah, I think that Arweave's ability to provide provenance for data and store data on chain is the foundation of many of the things that we're talking about today. The ability to have indexed metadata alongside on-chain data so that it's composable, so you can find out the origin and the history and the trail of ownership of custody of data is only going to multiply in its value as the data set grows, as people start training AIs on it, as people generate revenue and license fees from those types of things. On-chain data is the sort of the substrate that I think that aligns all of these exciting new areas with individuals globally.
Okay, thank you, Christian. How about Matt? Oh, sorry. Thank you, DMAC. Thank you for thank you for DMAC and Christian. Yeah.
Yeah, we're excited for Arweave's potential with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is popping right now. We're all trying to figure out why and price, but you can follow our My Network on mynetwork.xyz on Twitter, Medium, Discord, LinkedIn, Telegram, and we'll be launching more news about our partnership together.
Okay, thank you, guys. Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you, Elaine. Thank you for you all. And next, we will turn to the panel 2.
Hey, Sam.
And the panel will hosted by DMAC. So DMAC, you need to stay here and welcome your guest. I think your guest are all here right now. Sam, Aki, Tom, and Albert. But Albert is not here. Is Michael. Michael is from Layer 2 Labs. Yeah. Okay.
Hello.
So, hello. So DMAC, you can start your panel, I think.
All right. So we're going to be discussing sovereignty today, but before we get started with the questions, why don't we do a round of introductions with each of the guests? We'll just go in the order of the profile pictures on the on the cover card. So Sam, why don't you give us a brief introduction?
Sure. Hi. I'm Sam. I founded the Arweave protocol, and now I run Forward Research, which is one of the institutions in the Arweave ecosystem pushing for the network's adoption.
Aki, go ahead.
Yeah, Aki Barlow co-founded DLC Link. We are implementing an MIT invention called discrete log contracts, DLCs, that enable Bitcoin to be trustlessly used in Ethereum protocols, and we are launching a non-custodial wrapped Bitcoin token called DLC BTC in a few months.
Very cool. Tom, why don't you introduce yourself?
Everyone, my name's Tom Wilson. I'm a founder in residence at Forward Research, a venture studio that's in the Arweave ecosystem. And I'm also the core developer of the Stamp protocol, which is the universal like in the Arweave network.
And Albert, please introduce yourself. Hi.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. I'm Albert, founder of the Bitcoin Startup Lab, and we currently are the largest pre-accelerator on Bitcoin now. We have over 100 mentors, and we're also the creators of the Bitcoin Olympics Hackathon, which became the largest Bitcoin hackathon ever in terms of technologies under one hackathon, 15 different Bitcoin technologies. Thank you.
Sure. Why don't we kick it off with you, Albert? Today we're discussing sovereignty in the Web3 era, and I'm curious what your thoughts are, particularly in how you would define those terms. When you think of Web3, what do you think of? And when you think of sovereignty, what do you think of? And how much of a role does one play in the other?
Can you help me define what you mean by sovereignty before I get into that?
Like personal sovereignty.
Right. Okay. So personally, I like I'm fairly new to Web3, and I learned a lot of my Web3 from A16Z, and I do agree with their one-line definition of Web3, which I believe is the user-owned internet.
Okay.
So
go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that was my.
That was, yeah. So user owned, this idea of empowering individuals, a version of the web that empowers individuals, that seems to have a sort of a natural overlap with this concept of personal sovereignty. Maybe Aki, would you care to weigh in on the value or the importance, or maybe even a definition of personal sovereignty?
Yeah, I guess the way I would say it is the way that the internet evolved with Web 1, like just web pages and Google search, it was very one-directional. Web 2 was bi-directional, where you could interact with each other and so on. But that game was still, the Web 1 and Web 2 game was fully locked up in the protocols. So if you, for example, previous to this, I ran an AI marketing optimization company for 8 years that I founded. And the if you're doing Facebook marketing, let's say, then all of the assets you create, all of your work ends up being owned and monetized by Facebook, and all of your data also ends up being owned and monetized by Facebook. Basically, they might give you a copy, but it all adds to Facebook's sort of value as sort of and then they can really do whatever they want, and there's no transparency. And that's just your digital profile. That's just your identity, which is already a big deal. And then you, of course, they track you across websites, and the web has evolved that way. But then even worse, when it comes to your money is issued by different governments with different agendas and different constituents. And then you take that money and you put it into a bank that is, although regulated, and you can inspect the regulations, but you cannot inspect the workings of the bank. And so that's okay, except for every 10 years or so, banks seem to fail for kind of unexplained reasons, because they made bad loans or they made some other decisions. And so we're living in a kind of an age where most of the things we do are not owned by us, and we're kind of like a player in a game that we cannot influence. And to me, Web3 on those various different layers returns that to the user. You can actually own your asset and hold the asset, and it's yours, and it cannot be censored. It cannot be taken away. That's the promise of Bitcoin as an asset. These different DeFi and various blockchains and protocols. You can inspect the code. You can see, what the issues are. I mean, it's all extremely transparent. It's open finance. And if you take a loan, for example, or you do some sort of finance, you can actually see that on an order book or on a, ledger in a pool or somewhere, and you can trace it. And so you have traceability, and that also breeds accountability, so that, you know, if you put your money somewhere, you don't have to be afraid that some, malignant actor or somebody acting either in bad faith or just mishandling it is going to, give your money out on a loan that then fails, and you end up, footing the bill. And I think that's like on different layers, the vision that we're all trying to, to get to.
Yeah. So what I would extract from that is that sovereignty is really about taking custody or ownership and not having to depend on other parties for that. Sam, that's something that's critical to decentralized systems, and specifically Arweave. Maybe you could weigh in.
Yeah, so I think sovereignty in its core sense is about rights. What you are allowed to do, what you are not allowed to do on your own initiative without asking for permission. And so part of that is ownership. But I would say that's actually a relatively small corner in the long run. It is where crypto has focused in the early years. But my hunch is that essentially where this all goes, well, what does a blockchain allow you to do fundamentally? It allows you to create systems that enforce that users have rights that can't be taken away from them. So you can render services via the internet in one form or another, from money to exchanges to the storage of data, in which the business model of those services is made transparent and immutable, subsequently rendering rights to the users. And so, yes, I think that like ownership can be part of this, but it's definitely not the whole. And so when we think about sovereignty in the real world, well, we think fundamentally you have a right to free speech in America. That's the First Amendment. And then a bunch of other subsequent rights. You get to property ownership quite far down the list, actually. And I would also kind of argue that, okay, and this is, I'm curious to hear what other people think about this, because I've never quite been convinced that ownership is the core of Web3 for the following reason. Well, I can go out and buy a share in Amazon, actually, and I have been able to since like 2003, I think was the IPO, somewhere around that time, maybe even before, right? No, 99. And the same with Google. I could buy shares in Google. I could buy shares in Meta while it was, when it was Facebook, when it was just one product. I could buy shares in Twitter. So I could actually become an owner of essentially most of the Web2 services that matter to me for a long time. But that's not really the thing that I think matters to end users. What matters is, in the case of Arweave, okay, if there's a decentralized version of Twitter on top of Arweave, you can't be censored. It doesn't matter how many tokens or shares or anything I own, it's that you actually have immutable rights and subsequently sovereignty on that platform. I can't take your identity away from you. You have the keys, right? And so when I think about Web3, that's, I guess, where my mind goes. Although I can certainly appreciate that ownership is a part of it. And we've been doing a lot of work in the Arweave ecosystem around how to associate real world rights with on-chain tokens, in particular as it relates to content. So when you upload a video, for example, you can put what we call the universal data license on top of it. And then you can say, okay, anyone can access my video, but if you want to use it for commercial purposes, you have to distribute a royalty in the following fashion. And then you can trade access to that royalty. So you have a real world legally enforceable right that's associated with that token. I think that's like a strong form of ownership in cyberspace. But I think that's only the start of this.
I'd like to thank you for that, Sam. So yes, it's like uncensored, but I'd like to speak on the ownership part. I'm originally from the Silicon Valley. Before we started the Bitcoin Startup Lab, and this is going to go right into the ownership. Like there's a real life example of what happened to me about 2 years ago, right? The reason why, okay, so I moved to Shanghai, China in 2001. And in the beginning, full disclosure, guys, I was a naysayer for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I had to eat my words about 2 years ago because at that time we had already done 21 cohorts, pre-accelerated cohorts in China, making us the longest running pre-accelerator in all of China. As a result, we had equity in many companies. The policies started coming down, and some of the best performing companies were in sectors that the government deemed expats cannot own equity anymore. I was forced to give up my shares. I was forced to give up my ownership in those companies. If my wife wasn't Chinese, I would have lost all of those shares. So I do believe the ownership part is super, super important. And that's why from a naysayer getting stomped on by a central authority, that's when my eyes opened to Bitcoin and decentralization and user own internet. Right. Before I thought it was just like, yeah, this is not going to work. But you know, it may not work, but I'm a believer now, and we're behind this 100% to make it work. Sovereignty.
I'll give you a chance to respond, Sam, but I also, I was remit in my host duties. I failed to introduce one of our guests today. So Mike Young, I'd like to invite you to join the conversation and give a brief introduction.
Oh, hi, yeah, I'm Mike. I'm an angel investor in Layer 2 Labs. I've been in Bitcoin since 2011. Done many things in the industry, and now I'm Layer 2 Labs head person here in Asia and Hong Kong. So good to be on. Yeah.
Great to have you. Yeah, so what I would extract from Albert and Sam, what you both said, I heard you both saying that ownership is important. And also, I think Sam was pointing out a very important thing about sovereignty is that it's not just the ownership, it's the systems, or it's the properties or the attributes of the entire system. So censorship resistance is a property of the entire system. Even in finance, to use your example, Sam, you can of course own shares in a company, but if you want to trade, there's a whole system of middlemen that sort of will front run your opportunity. But with sovereignty and with decentralized systems, it's a much more transparent system, and there's rights and powers and that fall out for individuals from those systems. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good encapsulation of what I'm trying to say. Like, sovereignty is this much wider basket of which ownership is part of that basket, but it's not the whole thing. I think, yeah, definitely in the case of Bitcoin, yeah, like that gives you real sovereignty and real ownership in a way that is not there are very few other things that are really bearer assets. You have the bar of gold in your hand. It's kind of a bearer asset, but like it's pretty hard to end up with something like that. Say you own a house. Well, your name is on the deed, right? But actually there are occasionally like disputes about who owns houses and the likes. So it's very hard to have real bearer assets, whereas Bitcoin definitely is one of those. I think where that line gets a little bit blurry, what I was trying to point out was kind of in Web3, in the scare quotes kind of like version of that world, where essentially you have tokens that are associated with the activities of a relatively centralized group of people, right? Which realistically is unfortunately a lot of what Web3 is like in practice. Then I don't personally see how that's much different than owning equity, because the government could come and they could censor that group of people, and that has even in the US that has happened, right? There was called Azuki DAO, something like this. I think it began with a B. Anyway, yeah, the US government essentially came along and to make a very long story simple, censored that operation. And so you could have tokens that are associated with that, or you like, it doesn't really matter because the activities were terminated. That stands in contrast to other things that are more protocolized, like Arweave. Doesn't matter. You can come along. You can. I was about to say something. The whole core team that built Arweave could die in a plane crash, and it wouldn't matter. The network would still run. I only represent one of the many organizations that now push the adoption of the system, like PermaDAO, for example, that put together this whole event. And so there is real decentralization there. You buy ownership in the Arweave protocol, and you're getting access to something that is much closer to Bitcoin. But there's definitely a spectrum between that and kind of Web3 DAOs and Web3 startups, if that makes sense, which I don't think are so censorship resistant because they have sort of high high dependence on traditional world structures, if that makes sense. Like they have to organize in the real world to achieve things, and you're buying into the productive output of that group of people that can themselves be censored. Anyway, this is an interesting digression, but yes, I think the core point was sovereignty is a big box, ownership is part of that box.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think I'm in alignment with you on that. Tom, and then Mike, would you care to chip in on the role of sovereignty, or perhaps this, definition of where sovereignty lives within Web3 as part of this discussion?
Yeah, I totally agree with Albert and Sam. The only thing that I would probably reiterate for me, especially with the permaweb as part of the Web3, is the ability to interact online without relying on centralized authorities or platforms. So I do think that is a big differentiator. You don't have to, you can rely on centralized authorities, but having that ability just empowers individuals to make decisions about their digital lives on their grounds. So everything that everybody else says, but I think it's very important that you have that right, that digital right to interact without centralized authorities, and that's still a problem that's being solved, but I feel like we're in that mission to get that right.
Yeah, that's super powerful. In the next version of the web, being built on infrastructure that's not centralized and doesn't have a profit motive. In fact, it's actually sort of competing away any sort of margins in order to offer this substrate for the web to be built on is a super powerful concept. Mike, welcome to the conversation.
Yeah, I think sovereignty in the digital space is very important. But I agree with what was said before. It's important to give people the choice. Just like if you remember watching The Matrix, like some people are just happily living in a digital world. Not everybody's ready for the red pill. So, in a really practical sense, maybe for the mass majority of people, their whole lives is a spectrum, right? They have parts of their lives. They're very self-sovereign, secretive, decentralized, and anonymous. There's other part of the life that is open, public, part of some collective. And I would just say that they don't mind the centralization. They don't mind someone having central control. That's just how society works. Like I think as the internet continues to evolve, more and more self-sovereign technology will exist, and more people will utilize it. And it's important that we have technology that can be used by both individuals, corporate entities, governments, the whole spectrum to accommodate for everybody's unique need. But I still think just most people are still at this point in time not ready for full self-sovereignty, I think. And we'll get there. Maybe I'll take a few more FTX and more knowledge and awareness of how to protect your self-sovereignty, your self-rights, including ownership of digital assets, true ownership of your own digital assets. Having those digital assets be on the right type of infrastructure for people to, the whole industry needs actually more ease of use so that people are more able to take advantage of self-sovereign technologies. Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit late here, so sorry my answer was a little bit here and there, but that's general just my comment. Yeah.
That's a great observation. There is some connotation with these terms. Self-sovereignty, when you think about it, really it's that thing that allows you to take control or to have authority over your own actions, your own rights as an individual. But typically, the way that is implemented from a technology standpoint is through the use of public-private key cryptography, which means people are holding keys, and they're using that. That's the thing that's the math, if you would, that gives them sovereignty. On the sort of other end of that spectrum, we have terms like Web3, which are really, I think, a reach towards, and this is my definition, and I'm open to hearing other definitions, but making a web that's built on the rights of decentralization and cryptography, but making it as accessible and easy to use as previous versions of the web. And so there's sort of, Mike, you sort of brought this up, there's an implicit tension there, where it's like sovereignty and individual rights are this property of blockchains and decentralized systems and things like public-private key cryptography. But on the other hand, to sort of have this new version of the web, it needs to reach out and include broad audiences that maybe aren't ready. So I guess my question would, aren't ready for that level of technical sophistication. So what is the approach, the way forward that you see here, and the role of personal sovereignty as the web evolves? Do we abstract away the sort of technical parts that are so explicitly linked to personal sovereignty in order to embrace Web3, or do we build Web3 on the fundamental building block or premise of personal sovereignty? Sam, you look like you're thinking something.
Yeah, this is definitely interesting. The thing that always comes to mind for me is, and I think has been the kind of Achilles heel of crypto, and I'm not sure I really drive a distinction between crypto and Web3, really, because I think that most of Web3 so far has been on the finance side, which I would traditionally say is kind of crypto. At least when I got into crypto, like 2012 or something, that was what people meant by it. It was like Bitcoin was also part of crypto. I put it all in that category. The Achilles heel has always been this. There's a real tension here, and then also a tension created by incentives for expediency, basically trading off real decentralization and these things that really give sovereignty with, well, actually making it easy to use and also shipping it to users with the current state of technology, and B, quickly, right? And so in a lot of early Web3 stuff, let's take NFTs as an example, you had very weak forms of ownership with a lot of those. The one that sticks in my mind is during the bull market in NFTs, Lollapalooza issued some commemorative NFT tokens, I think in 2021, and these were stored on Amazon S3, issued by FTX, and then FTX went bust, and so those tokens essentially just point to like the 404 when you try and access them now. People bought those for like $20,000 each or something. So I don't really feel like you had any strong sense of ownership there or sovereignty. So that was kind of expedience killed the cat, and we have the same problem on the cryptography side. It's funny because if you think, well, what's the root of all of this? We call it crypto. What is crypto short for? Cryptography. And so if we don't have the keys, which are the essence of cryptography, we can't, we go nowhere. And so there's this real tension between like making it easy for end users to access without the dragon eating its tail. That's always the thing that comes to mind. Can we deliver that experience to users without also making it so that they lose the thing that was supposed to make the thing great in the first place? And it's definitely a battle that it's not obvious we've won yet. Although there is a great effort going into this. I think some of the new wallet experiences that people are creating are pretty good. Ideas around sharing key shards, some of those key shards being held by the user, some being held in centralized locations one way or another. or like cloud hosted hardware security modules, that type of thing. It's not the worst on-ramp, but we just have to be careful in the way that we communicate this to people. One final thought, I think, is that sovereignty is inherently dangerous, right? Like when we actually think about sovereign rights, free speech is not a joke. It's not like a trivial thing. You take trade-offs when you give people free speech as a society. Like you let them say things that could cause chaos, to put it mildly. And what's the second right provided by the Constitution in the US? The right to bear arms. Talk about dangerous. Like sovereignty is not a joke. It's not a toy. The right to bear arms is literally the ability to fire weapons at each other. Like does it get more extreme than that? So I don't think that sovereignty is, but I also take your point that Web3 is kind of the application of all of these cryptographic principles about sovereignty and trying to make them easy for people to use and hopefully relatively safe. And I think there's a fundamental contention in there we're not at the bottom of yet. That was what I was thinking when you said it looked like I was thinking something.
Absolutely. Having individual rights, having sovereignty, taking responsibility for those things, one doesn't come without the other. The power that is granted also comes with responsibility. And like anything powerful, it has an upside and also a positive use and a negative use. And so there is this interesting tension with Web3 where there's an effort to decrease the friction. And one of the ways you decrease friction is not ask users to take as much as responsibility right out of the gate, which is what sovereignty asks you to do, to take this power into your own hands. So maybe Aki and then Albert, I'll get you guys to weigh on this. What is the role? We've been talking about sovereignty and to some extent we boiled that down to the idea of having users managing their own keys and taking responsibility. How much of a role does that play in Web3 and also in your businesses when you're in the work that you're doing? Are you leaning into this concept of having users holding keys, or are you making efforts to abstract that away to, I guess, lower the friction? Aki, go ahead.
Yeah, and this it's a nice transition from the last question too. It's like Web3 to me is making cryptography sexy because I want to distinguish between the value or the goal and the current technical implementation or the current technical user experience of something. While we were talking, we're thinking, well, with the internet, when the internet launched, first with DARP in the 70s, and then GeoCities web pages in the 90s, and what it is today and what it will be 80 years from now or 200 years from now, the goal and kind of the technical experience are two different things. For example, with the iPhone, you can unlock it with your face, and probably Android, of course. And so that stuff makes it easy to use. So the even though usability can be a barrier, of course, when it's clunky, but the goal is still worth doing and still worth making progress towards. For us, how that works with us or kind of the decisions our team made to do what we're doing, it's very straightforward. We're building on the thesis that Bitcoin is this decentralized bearer asset, and that it is operated by a network of miners, that it's a proof of work chain, which has inherent obviously pros and cons, but we think benefits to safeguarding one's assets compared to proof of stake and so on. So we believe that building on Bitcoin makes sense, long story short. But if you have Bitcoin, the only ways to use it in any kind of financial application, lend, borrow, earning yield, investment, etc., all of those involve some level of centralization, either by just regular CeFi, Celsius, and so on, or bridges where you're basically pooling Bitcoin in different pools, and then if the network is hacked, that Bitcoin can be stolen. And so we're building a way, kind of what we call a theft-proof bridge, but a way for Bitcoin to be used on other chains, starting with Ethereum as the second most decentralized chain, and then protocols on there. So basically being able to use your Bitcoin in Ethereum and DeFi to earn a yield or to generate a return while you're holding it through generation. So very, very simple. We took this position because Bitcoin and ETH just seem to be the two most decentralized options. And anyway, that kind of delivers. And we're hoping to do that with a very clean user experience, like kind of a one-click interface.
So in that solution, do holders of Bitcoin put their Bitcoin at risk to participate?
I cannot say no, because anytime you do something, there is risk. But the risk with what we're, of course, so, but logically speaking, but what we are implementing is this DLC, this invention out of MIT that lets you lock Bitcoin in 2 of 2 multisig, where you hold one of the keys. And unlike other kind of current Bitcoin solutions, usually when you lock into something like that, there are 3 keys and the company, owns a 3rd key. We don't have that. So we don't hold a key to your Bitcoin. We cannot take the Bitcoin. You're not pooling it with us. You're not sending it to us. You're basically locking it in kind of an on-chain escrow that you hold, and the protocol holds the other key for administrative purposes and so on. But essentially in V1 of DLC BTC, you're actually just locking with yourself. The only address that the Bitcoin can go to is yours. And you're just locking it. So that seems to us, when we learned about DLCs 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago now, that seemed to be the most elegant and simplest way to secure, Bitcoin for this purpose.
Oh, very interesting. Albert, go ahead.
Yeah, no, super. I mean, Aki, what you're building is also really important. DLCs, leveraging Bitcoin L1. I think there's definitely a lot of experimentation going on in this area. If we're talking about do we promote having people take care of their own keys? I think it really depends on the situation. Like I'm oversimplifying this, but let me give 2 examples to illustrate my point. Let's say an American, they have a choice. Choice number A, let's say they have only $100,000 in cash, right? They're going to go to a bank that's FDIC insured up to whatever, above that amount, right? So that's secure in that sense. Do they trust the government more to have that money to back them up, like they bailed out the Silicon Valley Bank? Or do I keep that $100,000 equivalent in a crypto, Bitcoin, whatever, right? And take ownership of their own keys and run the risk of losing those keys? Right, run the risk of losing those keys. Now, which probability is higher? Right, I don't think it's such a black and white question at that point in time. Right now, same situation, also an American, right, and versus let's say a Bitcoin wallet. Now we're talking about if it was $1 million equivalent value, right? Now you're not completely insured. If the bank goes bust, maybe you don't get bailed out. Now in that case, I would say maybe it makes even more sense to hold Bitcoin or some other thing that could give you that security. Now, let's say it's Argentinian, someone from Argentina versus an American. If you have your money in cash in a bank, maybe they'll back you up, but maybe because of inflation is so high, it doesn't even matter what kind of guarantees they give you, right? So I think it really depends, and that's on the individual level. Now, if I was a fund manager, or if I was, if it was a business, for example, does it make sense to have one person to have keys? Maybe it's a multi-sig. Maybe there has to be a solution to guard against that chance of that person either losing the keys or something happening to them, and then you can never recover it, right? So I think the question of ownership of one keys is very interesting. It adds another option to the options we have, but we have to consider the context and go through at least 2 different scenarios, right? To figure out exactly in which cases self-sovereignty or multi-sig sovereignty is clearly the path to go. So I mean,
Interesting.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no.
So what I just wanted to, did you have something else to add? An additional thing?
No, I'm just saying, yeah, just in summary, it's just the context. The context it's another tool that gives us more options and perhaps a better solution because we have more choices now.
So to frame this, we have Web3. Its intent is to bring to market the properties of self-sovereignty and decentralization and the attributes that those give to individuals. But what I hear coming out of this discussion here today is that it's actually a range, like full self-sovereignty, full custody comes with like a lot of power and a lot of responsibility, but actually there's a range of interests in the market and not all individuals want that much power or responsibility. So part of Web3 is offering sort of a gradient from those things, like being able to engage in a fully self-sovereign way, but also being able to offer layers of value on top of that through things that are, I guess, takes steps towards greater centralization. They're not completely centralized, but they, have more, they also ask less responsibility of the individuals. And so there's this trade-off between like how much responsibility and how much power you need or want. Tom.
Yeah, well, ultimately what that means is if we have the opportunity to build a decentralized, for example, a financial ecosystem, at the very least, like let's say policymakers don't squash it, at the very least it's another type of competition that could keep the incumbents a lot more honest. Right.
That's a fantastic point. A lot of times I've seen in various protocols, and this is true of Arweave as well, having the fully decentralized option allows people to, I guess, build more accessible options, knowing that if there was ever any issue with those options that sort of rely on more traditional Web2 infrastructure to deliver, that you could always fall back and use the decentralized option. And so as anyone building on top of this platform, just knowing that users can actually go directly to the protocol and go around any of these sort of convenience options is something that builds sort of inherent transparency and honesty into these solutions that are built on top of these protocols. Tom, I want to get your input here. What is the role of self-sovereignty, crypto keys for individuals in the greater realm of Web3?
Yeah, so I kind of think of it in a very simple way as well, is as Web2 has grown into these very large companies, that they've also, whether intentional or not, tended to kind of control conversations, kind of introduce centralization. And I feel like there's this ongoing battle of, really trying to provide a safer, more effective internet. But as a result of potentially creating restrictions on speech, restrictions on rights. And, I think with Web3 is kind of the first step in the promise to have that option for sovereignty, have that option to have free speech online, have that option to have rights to do something without central authority. So I kind of see the permaweb as the next step. So the permaweb on Arweave is kind of taking it a step farther than what I understand as Web3, of really just providing a full stack from end to end of decentralized web services for anyone to use. But I always see it as something that will be a set of options. Like there's always going to be large social media services for people who don't want to maintain their keys and don't want to do that. But for people that do, there should be an option, and we should work to make it as easy as possible for those folks to do that.
Great, thank you. So let's pivot the conversation a little bit. We've talked about Bitcoin and different mechanisms of custody that have this sort of gradient of like full self-custody to the various layers above that have different affordances for users. I'd like to pivot the conversation to talk about a parallel to that, which is data sovereignty. When Bitcoin as a sort of a financial asset is brings sovereignty and the rights, and we've been talking about the larger discussion of what sovereignty means. It's not just ownership; it's been larger. But in terms of data sovereignty, perhaps Sam, I could ask you to sort of compare and contrast what that looks like relative to sort of financial sovereignty.
Well, I think you were right to frame this as you did 2 questions ago, if I'm not mistaken, as essentially, or no, 1 question ago, keys. Keys are the thing that enable sovereignty in cyberspace. And so, yes, like financial sovereignty is a sort of box inside that, but ultimately it's just the playing field that we're discussing is only made available via keys. And actually, I wanted to follow up on something, a Thomism, that he did not say here, but it's kind of an answer to the last question that I think is really worth at least discussing, which is, I forget how Tom phrased it. This was at the 5-year anniversary of Arweave Mainnet. Tom gave a talk, and one of the things he said was, that it is a privilege to have one's own keys. Like we should be, it's an honor to have that sovereignty that we should so excited to give away. Like it's quite annoying. Yeah, we've got to remember these sets of words, or keep safe a set of 12 words, 24 words somewhere. Okay, but what you get from that is non-trivial. It's really powerful. It is your voice. It's literally your voice, like the tone of your voice, your identity, in a very fundamental way. So if we can keep our passports safe, can we not keep 24 words safe? And we can generate them however we like, we don't have to go to a centralized issuing authority. We have the right and the ability to generate them under any circumstances and keep them safe in any way that we think is appropriate. And so I guess this speaks a little bit to your question of data sovereignty. What does it really mean? Well, if we think about like the legacy of people's lives, is it not that most of the times the things that they say are worth more than the money that they accumulate? Like, is it not that the impact that most people leave on the world has more to do with the things that they decide to do with their time? And if you do stuff in cyberspace, you also do it with keys, or the things that they discuss, the way that they interact with the world. I guess in cyberspace, that is all under the realm of data sovereignty. Having your own keys, and don't get me wrong, I think that like one of the things that is enabled by crypto is a sound financial system, which the world needs. Perhaps it's one of the most important things we need in this crazy age. But I also think that data sovereignty is way under discussed because the financial incentives are way more on this focus around money and the finance system. Makes sense. But I think long term, 20 years from now, when we look at cyberspace, it will be defined by cryptographic keys and access to services that render inalienable rights to people in the same way that states give you theoretically inalienable rights. Except the thing is, you can trust math an awful lot more than you can trust a politician. Right. Anyway.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I was just reflecting on what you were saying there, that many of the rights that we have, like politically in the West, with regards to things like finance, and blockchains and cryptography, are actually all protected under another right, which is speech. So in a weird way, there is this sort of like, hey, financial sovereignty is so great. It has this economic upside, but actually the thing that's really enabling it is speech, the right to speech, which is a very sort of interesting, yeah, almost like a Ouroboros there. Mike, what do you think? Is it a privilege and an honor to hold keys? Is this something that we should continue to onboard users to, or is it something that's really just for advanced users?
I think it's going to be mostly for advanced users because, yeah, for the most part, people just want simplicity, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's very good to have rights over your own assets, but that responsibility is, I think, far too much for most people. Yeah, like you look at the average person today, they don't even, most people don't even use a computer anymore. They just use their smartphone. Most people rather pay like, what is it, like $5 or $7 US per month to have all their stuff stored in some centralized server owned by Apple or Google, whatever it might be. And that's the way most people tend to work nowadays. You know, as long as they can retrieve their photos and families and also not get hacked. I think people are willing to, yeah, I mean, like, yes, like, you know, NSA, CIA, whatever three-letter agency can, like, you know, snoop in and to probably take a look at everything that they want to. But I think most people don't feel like they're valuable enough to really care. You know, they feel like they have nothing to hide anyways. So I think my point is, whatever it might be, digital assets, whether it's a token or pictures or data, most people are not really at the stage where they're able to handle self-sovereignty. It requires a lot of technical expertise. So I think there's a lot of that's also a good part of all this is we're still so early. We're early, and there's a lot of benefits to be had for people and the parties that actually have the self-sovereignty technology done in such a way that allow the end user to really hold their own keys without knowing too many technical matters. You know, I think that's what they're trying to solve, at least in Bitcoin with some of the newer technology, like what's that guy's name? I forgot that guy's name, but like, you know, he's got this whole system where the keys are like held between many parties, many multi-sigs, kind of like a, you know, like a giant private key held by like a community of people, and if a certain number of them disappear, it doesn't matter, it'll still work. I think those are interesting concepts. But yeah, like cryptography and all this blockchain technology is still at a, you know, time and place where it's just far too difficult for the average person. I think Bobby Lee came out yesterday with his Valley wallet, and I think he said it right. You know, complexity is the biggest enemy of all this technology, all this crypto technology, cryptography. It is not actually attackers or hackers trying to hack, you know, come in and get your keys or get your passphrases. It's actually like people losing their own keys, losing their passphrases. That is the most worrisome, the most troublesome. So simplicity also yeah, is a winner in this sense. You know, the more simple you make the private key to be held by the person, the easier it is. Yeah, the less likely that they will lose their assets. And I think people want that. But I think for most people, which like probably 90% of people, they're happy just using Binance, right? They're happy just using Coinbase, whatever that might be.
I would inject there. You're absolutely right in the description of, like, I guess, the ease of use and the convenience that the world's become accustomed to. I guess I'll ask this question hypothetically to the audience: should it be that way? Should people give up their rights for convenience? Is that the world that we want to live in? Do we want to sort of try to turn cryptography into that as well? I don't think that's what you're saying. So, but it's an interesting question when we look forward to the future of cryptography. I wonder how much, if you're middle-aged like me, there was one thing like my parents and their generation could never do. A friend of mine gave me this example. recently, is they could never program the clock on a VCR. Like as kids, if you even remember what a VCR is, basically, technology moved faster than the generation did. And then at some point, the next generation could just do it instinctively. And the previous generation just never really made the jump. And so, another hypothetical I wonder is like, I wonder if that actually is the way with self-sovereignty, with keys, that it's the VCR, clock of this generation.
Just D-Mac, just real quick, my brain went exactly there too. I just spent the other day, I talked to my grandma, she's 83, and I was trying to convince her, not even just to use ChatGPT, but to do Google search. And she was convincing me that, she prefers looking things up in the encyclopedia because you lose something, when you do it on search. So some of these are generational behaviors, and I find it for that reason hard to speculate on the future usability or will people do XYZ, because we've learned to navigate this world in complex ways. We've learned to walk and then speak English and maybe other languages. And then we've learned to open a checking account at a bank and all these things. And so none of these things are in a discrete sense hard. They're just things to learn. And we've learned a million things to get to where we are now. And can we learn this one thing, especially if it's made easier through technology? I think it's fairly likely. If it's important, then people will learn it if they feel the downside of not learning it.
Yes, to jump in there. It's funny, I also thought of my grandmother, except I was actually trying to teach my grandmother to use a mouse. She never made it to being able to use a mouse, which is, it's quite sad in a way. But yes, it's definitely this question of, potentially ages, right? I could see that the next generation, of which a large number already own crypto, will probably be sufficiently interested to say, okay, I understand. All right, this is kind of like a passport, except it's a little book that I can keep. It's got my words in it. Not really all that complicated. But what also struck me in the slightly prior part of the conversation was maybe this is just a case of, what rights are preserved when you use the technologies in these different ways. So if you use Bitcoin on the base layer, you have a key, it has some tokens inside. Maybe the key is even kept in your head if you desire, right? That's true self-sovereignty and censorship resistance. Those tokens are going with you wherever you go and nowhere else, unless you desire them to. So that's pretty profound. But even if you keep your Bitcoin on Binance, which please don't, by the way, but if you were to do so, you do kind of inherit certain properties from the protocol, even though you're using it in this sort of reduced way. And those would be, there is the threat of withdrawal, right? So Binance might rehypothecate your Bitcoin, as FTX did. It turns out they had no Bitcoin, if I remember correctly, or like one Bitcoin or something ridiculous when people thought that they owned their Bitcoin on FTX. They might rehypothecate it, but you can extract your money and there's a threat of that. And so that's something that keeps the third party in check. And so you get a limited exposure to the scarcity of Bitcoin, even if you hold it on a centralized exchange, which again, please don't. But so what I'm thinking is like the rights kind of trickle down, and there's a spectrum between these two extremes of like real self-sovereignty, where you have full rights that are granted by the protocol, and some sort of reduced set of rights if you decide to give away some of those for convenience. What comes to mind in the Arweave ecosystem is a system called Keys Aren't Simple. So when you use a PermWeb app, you use keys to sign the things that you say. So it's a decentralized social media system. You sign with your keys. Well, keys aren't simple as a way that you can basically, there's a little bit more complexity to it, but store your key one way or another in association with your Google account. Now, the runner of the website, so DMAC, you created a decentralized Twitter-like system on top of Arweave. DMAC has no way to sign transactions from your address, right? So you have some level of increased rights in that regard. But ultimately, Google still has access to steal your key if they so desired in this setup. And so that's the non-financial equivalent of this limited sovereignty where you're trading away some of it for increased usability. And I would hope that people move more in the direction of real sovereignty over time, but we can kind of stomach some midpoints if necessary in the intervening period, I think.
That's very interesting. There's a forcing function right now, I think, around data sovereignty that's pushing it more into the public eye and to the forefront. And that's this idea of generative content, both the back end and the front end of AI, right? So there's the training of data sets, and then there's also the content that's produced by these large models. And neither of them is making anyone, well, I would say it's very divided, right? On one hand, there's like incredible power that's been unlocked and the ability to generate content, but then a lot of content creators are seeing that like their content's being derivative works are being made, or actually, full on counterfeit versions of like their voice and their likeness and stuff are used to create content that isn't actually from them. And so the idea of these rights, things like speech, things like ownership and control and influence over your data are becoming more and more central to society as a whole. So Tom, I'm going to jump on you a little bit and say, like, what in terms of data sovereignty, what do you see the impacts of data sovereignty on AI and vice versa?
So and again, yesterday I was talking about the ability to put your data out there and sign it and license it in a way that you control how it's being used. So from the back end, if AI is scraping your data, being able to control that and say, hey, pay me a royalty if you want to use my data, or you're not allowed to use my data at all. And I signed that with my key, and I can, basically interact with those systems to, basically get something for providing value, or maybe not even providing the value at all. And if an AI tries to use my content, then I have a enforceable right using like the universal data license to pursue them. From the front end, I think again, it becomes a big challenge, but being able to represent yourself as an identity and being able to verify and not trust that this information is coming from a source of value is really kind of the best way that I can describe it. But it's really interesting how AI is just being kind of affecting every conversation, and just the unknown of unknown with AI, where it goes every day. So I think knowing that DMAC sent me a letter is going to be more and more important in the front end, to be able to verify and not trust that just because I got an email from DMAC at dmac.com, I don't know, was that AI generated? Was that coming from an untrusted source? So I think again, I kind of think that keys and the ability to verify information is just going to become more and more important over time.
Sam, I know Ford's been doing a bunch of work in this area, and there's some interesting projects being incubated there. What are your thoughts on the impacts of data sovereignty and AI on one another?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind for me is this initiative we have called Rail. So essentially a mechanism that AI, there's no set term for these companies yet, but basically AI producers, so people that provide hosted models that produce outputs for end users to use. yes, they can implement this and they can essentially create attestations that say, hey, this output, I created it at this time for this user. And it's cryptographically signed, of course, and sent to the network, which is an open public data space. And other companies can also do this. And so we're trying to work with as many of the major AI producers as we can, so that the public can then, when they see an image associated with a news article, they can check, hey, was this actually created by AI or is it real? And that we hope could defang some of the larger problems with this generative AI boom, which is essentially like, how do we know what's real anymore? Yeah, that's the first one that comes to mind. But it just occurred to me that like you could say the crux of all of this is basically like cryptography or it didn't happen, right? So if the output is not signed, then it reminds me of interestingly this big focus in the crypto industry on content identifiers, which was popularized by a distributed hash table service that shall not be named. But they have this idea that, okay, if you have a piece of content, you should just be able to find it by using its hash. Well, okay, that's fine. But like ultimately, this is a step back from the web. The web already is, because if I go to news website ilike.com, let's say Wall Street Journal, because it's not that. Most people find the Wall Street Journal to be relatively trustworthy. If I go to WSJ.com and I look at an article, I can see in the URL bar, it's got a big padlock. It says, okay, this was sent to me. This was signed by the certificate associated with the Wall Street Journal. If I go to a content identifier, I don't know who it was uploaded by. It could be anyone. And it's essentially worthless. Without knowing where the data came from, without the provenance, it's almost useless in most cases, unless it's entertainment. That's really the one thing where maybe it's still useful to people. But outside of entertainment, it's hard to think of data that without associated provenance information is valuable to us. Yeah, so again, it speaks to your point. Cryptography and keys are fundamentally the thing that will enable in a number of different vectors simultaneously us to move into this new world that we're inhabiting with good rights, without being lost and confused, and without being sort of subsumed into this what do you say, into the big tech nightmare that appears to be looming.
Yeah,
let's say that.
It's interesting that censorship resistance as an attribute of sovereignty has been with us from the beginning. Like, as a big point of Bitcoin is the inability to censor financial transactions. And indeed, like even recording history has been part of Bitcoin since the beginning, when Satoshi put like Chancellor on the brink of second bailout for banks. That concept of provenance, like being able to record history or record speech into a blockchain, has been with us from the very beginning. And what we're starting to see now is that provenance is something that is just as important and just as impactful. Well, maybe we're not quite there yet as censorship resistance, but it's becoming another very strong component or attribute of sovereignty as a whole. Is provenance is now part of that thing. And it's interesting that it's been implicit in decentralized blockchains since the very beginning. And so, one of the advantages of Arweave is its ability to scale on-chain data. So, you have in your Coinbase transaction, you have sort of a limited amount of space, a couple hundred bytes to store provenance information. On Arweave, you can store that at any scale. And today it's happening at 150 transactions per second. And to Sam's point, these about the location of this information, storing important information, attributes like provenance about the data, that's happening on chain on Arweave. So we're wrapping up on time here. We're actually a little bit over. I'd like to just go around the guests and say any final comments, anything you'd like to add before we wrap up. Go ahead, Aki.
Yeah, we won't have time to spend more time on this, but I just to, I guess, qualify my background a bit, I became an AI VC in 2011, and 10 years ago, I invented a way to optimize content for search using machine learning. And then 6 years ago, we built an LLM prior to, I think, GPT-3, and had a whole research center in Montreal. So spent a lot of time there. I think we should do another panel on that. I don't know if it'll be in the confines of this conference, but we should do that because I think of generative AI both as a tool and potentially as an entity. Kind of how like corporations are people too. They're not, but it could be its own entity. But it definitely is a tool that people can use in positive or malevolent ways. But anyway, just to kind of bring it back to sovereignty, crypto is definitely, or Web3 is definitely the confluence of a lot of things that are on people's minds. And I just think about the value of privacy and the value of, censorship resistance. And, that is really felt when you feel the opposite of it, as people do in Argentina for different reasons, so on. So that's really what it's going to take to get broad adoption, is for people to feel censored, and when they do, for there to be an available technological option that is easy enough for them to access, maybe on an iPhone or something that they're familiar with. But anyway, I'll stop talking because I know we're over time and would love to do another panel on this AI stuff.
Thanks, Aki. Mike, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it will take a lot of time for all this stuff to play out. I think, to be honest, like crypto has only been in the mainstream, I think probably like since the previous bull market, 2017. Before that, it was still kind of obscure. So like actually like in the public side point of view, most people only came to crypto maybe like since 2017 or after. So we're still very, very early, just like everything else. Like look at how long the internet took from the early Web 1 to a point where majority of people have used the internet in some capacity. So I think we're still very far away, and usability is a big quick question, and there still needs to be more applications for just regular people, grandmas, to get into this space and have to make it more useful to them. So we're not quite there yet, and yeah, just kind of I think crypto is still waiting for its like ChatGPT moment. If I were to be honest, yeah, it's still very speculative at this point in time. So it'll take some years, I think. Yeah, that's my final comment. Yeah.
Thanks, Mike. Tom, anything to add?
DMAC, thank you so much for having me on this panel. It's been a pleasure. And again, just super excited about where the Bitcoin and the Arweave community is going in terms of this. And, the last comment is just, I always believe it's a privilege to have these tools, because when I started in Web 1, being a developer, I had these tools, and then in Web 2, they kind of gotten taken away. So it's just always, for me, I always think of this as a privilege to have the Arweaves and the Bitcoins in the world as options. It may not satisfy everybody, but if it's not there, I don't want to think about what things would be like. So thanks for having me.
Pleasure. Happy to have you. Thank you for coming. Sam, why don't you take us out?
Thanks. Yeah, I guess I'd like to reiterate what Tom said. I mean, watching the exodus of people from crypto to AI over the last year or so has been kind of curious, because in my mind, they are essentially dipoles of the same spectrum. One is going to increase centralized power extremely quickly, and the other is essentially the bulwark, which says, no, we should increase personal freedom in a world where the power and effect of technology is rapidly increasing. So if you're the owner of that technology, you get more and more power. And I really feel like, yeah, I was born at a time where I could, in some sense, watch. I grew up with the free internet and watched it kind of die. And I feel very, very, very grateful that we really, as a result of peer-to-peer technologies, but blockchain specifically, have like at least something that if we get it right, we can bring back a free internet and stop the door closing completely. Because I just like to reiterate what Tom says. I don't want to know what the world looks like if we don't, frankly. So yeah, thank you for hosting the panel, DMAC. I think that was actually a very interesting discussion. My takeaway is like, this all comes from keys. Sovereignty doesn't work in cryptography without keys. That's actually a pretty interesting thought I hadn't spent too much time thinking about. But yeah, grateful for the opportunity to discuss it and explore.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much to all the panelists for attending and answering these questions. Like Sam says, I found the conversation to be fascinating. And yeah, it is one of the truly exciting things about the space is that decentralization and blockchains are one of the few bright spots in technology that have sort of an obvious optimistic upside. You know, there isn't sort of a shadow version of decentralization and self-sovereignty that threatens the other sort of utopian version of it. And so that's one of truly exciting things about working in this space. Both Bitcoin and Arweave have obvious, you know, pro-social, empowering properties for individuals, and as a result, for the future that we want to build. So thank you so much for your attendance, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you, DMAC. Thank you, Sam, Aki, Tom, and Albert. Yeah, thank you for all. And we will the events online will be in. So thank you for all. And I really appreciate for all your attending to our events. So let's goodbye. Maybe wish you all have a good day. Goodbye.
Thank you.